Time limit today, who knows? All four jerseys under pressure today in one way or another. And away we go. Starting this morning, overcast but dry, but as they head into the mountains, it's going to be difficult. And it was nervous after the start because the first 50, 60, nearly 70 kilometers were run at over 50 kilometers an hour. Finally, a breakaway, pushing away, getting away, and just look at the conditions now. We'll tell you who is in the breakaway. Matteo Monteguti, AG3 Le Mondial. De Marchi of Androni, we've seen him before. De Negri of Farnese Vini, likewise. Olivier Kaysen, wanting to clearly try and get back that top spot in the Fuga Pinarello Prize, the Escape Prize. He initiated the break today. Andre Amador again in a break. Nicolas Mace of Omega Pharma Quickstep. And Nelson Oliveira of Radio Shack Nissan. The man you're watching on your screen is Jan Bárta. And so well in Tirreno Adriatico, the Czech rider. The gap is 14 minutes and 34 seconds. Well, that is exactly what... that's exactly what the gap that Jan Bárta needs. 12:56 is what they have over the peloton. Jan Bárta, the best placed man in the breakaway at 14:34, and a good move to get in today because the favourites will be marking each other. Sean is in the commentary seat beside me once again. Sean, today, this is where the real race starts. We've seen some spectacular sprinting, we've seen some great racing, some great places, but today is where you start winning or losing the Giro.
Well, today is the day where we will see the real race for the general classification. The men who are not in as good shape as they would like to be, as we maybe expect them to be, or we think they are. We will see that today. Big mountain stage in the end, and 22 kilometers of a climb, the first one, and then that final difficult climb, 27 k's to the finish. In the last 68 k's, you have that huge amount of climbing, so it's going to be a big test today, and it's going to give us a pretty clear picture who is capable of winning this race in a week's time. With such a difficult week to come, and the weather conditions is going to be difficult to adapt for some riders. We've had really good weather in this race for 2 weeks now. Perfect weather for racing in the last number of days. 6-7 days ago it was a little bit too warm, a bit uncomfortable, but it's better that than what we're getting today. At the moment we can see it's wet, it's not raining a lot, but as you know, when you go to that altitude and the Col de Joux, 1,640 metres, the descent of that is 18 kilometres long. You can get very cold, and some riders do not support that weather, and then when you hit the final climb, which is 27 kilometres, as I say, if you get cold on the first climb of the day, well then you can have real difficulty in the beginning of the final climb, and it's all dependent on the rain as well. If the rain holds off, it's not too bad, but if it starts to rain and riders get cold, well then we could see some riders having major difficulty, and I mean the favourites in this race. Absolutely.
Riders who are not particularly good at supporting cold weather. Let's start with the obvious one. His team manager, Bruno Everberry, already saying in the papers, Sean, that Domenico Pozzovivo hates this weather.
Yes, well, he's noted for that. He hates the cold weather, and I think part of that hate as well, if you're in mountain stages and you have descents, he hates that more so. So he is a double whammy here today. If it does get really cold and that descent off the Col de Joux, he's going to have difficulty on that one with the wet streets. He doesn't like it at all. But there's many others. I think Frank Schleck, he doesn't like the cold conditions, especially when it changed suddenly. And unfortunately today it's changed just a totally wrong day going into the mountains. If we had it 2 days ago on the flat, you have a bit more time, the body, to adapt to the colder conditions. But here, big altitude, as I said, Col de Joux, 1,640, and the final climb, it's over 2,000 metres. So it's going to be cold, very, very cold out there. And as I said, Schleck is another one. Gadret, I'd be a little bit concerned about him as well. He's a very lightweight rider, and if it really gets cold and it does rain a lot before the descent of Col de Joux, well then we could see some major problems for some of the big favourites.
How much does it build up in your mind, Sean, for a rider like Pozzovivo? Basso, again, is another one who's not particularly happy in the cold, miserable conditions, although less of a problem for him than some of the others. Rodriguez said he's not too bad in the cold. How much does it play on your mind? You're making your way towards the mountains. You could see it coming up ahead of you. The rain is starting to lash down upon you, just drizzle on you, which is even worse, actually. This constant stream of stuff. How much does it play on your mind knowing that you've got that long descent coming on the other side? Does it get to you?
Well, it does. It does play in our mind, certainly, because the big day on the good conditions, as we've been having all this Giro, you're always concerned a little bit that you might not be on the best of a day. Everybody is a little bit worried about that. You come from almost 2 weeks on the flat racing, big gears, and then you go into this situation where it's long climbs, climbing gear, which you have to change the rhythm totally. And even the best of riders have, difficulties in that. You're always a little bit concerned on the first day in the mountains, but throw in the conditions we've got today, it makes it worse again. And if you're a little bit prone to not supporting the cold conditions, well, then it's another added pressure on you, and it's going to be, big pressure for some of the riders, as we said. Pozzovivo, of course, because he doesn't like the cold, but also the descents is a major problem when you have the wet roads. And as you said, Basso as well, maybe not the best one, but I think he can survive. Schleck is the one which I would be concerned about, because sometimes he has difficulty adapting, and there's, number of riders there might have some difficulty today just adapting to the big temperature change.
We've entered this series of forts. You saw one of them then. Actually, we missed Bárta, which is a bit of a shame, just down the road. All these series of string of forts along the ridge here. They've sort of been in the same position since Roman times, pretty much. But really, as you can see with that one, reinforced just before the Napoleonic period. All this area was broken up. The House of Savoy and the Napoleonic armies coming in. It's been fought over for a long time. Key strategic area, this pass along up to and over the Alps. This is right at the back of the peloton. 12 minutes and 22 seconds. Some riders without rain jackets on, but a miserable day today in the saddle. So, he has a gap of 14 minutes and 34 seconds to make up if he wants to go into the virtual lead of this race. And 12 minutes and 2 seconds is the gap that he has over the pink jersey group, the Gruppo Maglia Rosa. A miserable day today, and what a change we've had from the last 2 or 3 days. They are on the Col de Joux. Very long climb, 22.4 kilometers, rises up to 1,640 meters, and they're just riding into the wind here and into the rain. It's not particularly strong wind or particularly strong rain, but really miserable. If suddenly you come from hot, pleasant conditions for riding a bicycle, and suddenly you enter up in the mountains, and it's the change sometimes, as Sean has often pointed out, that is very difficult. Not just the fact that it's raining, the physical change in temperature and type of weather. Some riders can support it, some riders can't. There'll be a few heavy hearts today. The talk was at the start all of what the weather would be like, even last night what the weather would be like. And Sean, they would have been studying the medium range and short range weather forecast very carefully indeed for this day today. And for the week, in fact.
Yes, well, they will be studying it, and the teams will be looking yesterday and the previous couple of days how the weather was looking, and especially for the riders, I think, and the teams that don't like the conditions. They have riders who just dread these conditions we're getting today, so they would be definitely looking at it. But unlucky really in this race, because we've had such great weather, and now it comes into the big mountain stage, the first real big test, and here we go, bad weather conditions. And it's going to test the riders' mental powers as well, because that's what makes, I suppose, a big stage race rider. You have to be able to fight for 3 days on the flat for the past 2 weeks, fighting there in the final of the stages with all the sprinters when it's going at 60 km/h to hold your place in the front with your teammates. into those crazy finishes which we've been having. You know, you get into your terrain then, and suddenly the weather conditions come down and it's not favourable at all. And you have just to dig deep. You have to, you know, keep your concentration, not lose your morale, and that's what makes big champions and riders capable of winning big stage races. Of course, you have to have that ability as well. You have to have the ability to be able to climb, to be able to, you know, race over 3 weeks, time trial, all of that. But still, when you get these conditions, you know, the mental part as well is a big part.
Did you ever arrive at a stage race change like this, Sean, where it suddenly got into dreadfully bad conditions and found it very difficult to deal with? I mean, you were particularly known for being mentally tough, but do you ever remember an occasion where something drastically changed overnight weather-wise and it played on your mind?
Well, first of all, I supported the bad weather conditions very well, so it made it a bit easier. But you know, I didn't love the conditions. A lot of people say, "Oh, Kelly, he loved these conditions." When he looked out in the morning, he pulled the curtains. It was raining. He was, you know, cheering and shouting. It was never the case. And I do remember.
It's not bad making your rivals think that.
No, the rivals knew that. They knew I could support the conditions. They could see the way I was riding in the events, and they knew my forte points, I suppose. And in the bad conditions, I was able to support it really well. And I remember one year I was doing, we used to do Tour of Flanders, and then that evening you take a flight to Spain for the Pays Basques, which started on the Monday. And I remember when Van der Aarden won the Tour of Flanders, it was real bad conditions, very wet and cold in the end, and I had a difficult day. Then we took a flight to Pays Basque, and the following morning I woke up, I pulled the curtains, and it was just sheeting down with rain. And at that point I said, "Oh my God, not again." So in times like that, you say to yourself, it's hard, you know, it's hard to take it after being in a Tour of Flanders for 260 days, 260 Ks the previous day. But I think, you know, I supported it quite well, so that made it a bit easier for me to take the bad weather when we were getting it.
And how much as a big name contender for something like the Giro d'Italia or Tour of Spain or Tour de France or whatever it is, when you see weather conditions like this surrounding you and you know some of your main rivals don't support it so well, how much do you turn the screw?
Well, I think first of all you have to see on the stage, and if you look at today's stage, and you look at the route book and you see you have 2 big climbs in the end, you first of all get into the climb and see how you're feeling yourself. And if you're feeling good and you can see around you that some of the other favourites not in the best of shape, you can maybe try something with your team. There's also the other riders who we're talking about were a little bit outsiders for the general classification, and Pozzovivo, who we mentioned, today is an opportunity to put him under pressure, because he is a danger man at this point in the race at only 1:12 down in general classification. Like, if you allow him to get through today and the weather clears up again, you know, it becomes more of a danger. So I'd not be surprised if, you know, some of the favourites who are feeling good, they have some teammates with him after this first climb of the day. They could really push on the descent and trying to, you know, put Pozzovivo a little bit further outward before we get on to the final climb. And that's one major name, maybe a bit further back, and take him out of the general classification a bit more, knock a few minutes into him today.
Branislav Samalo is the rider on your screen. Let's remind you that there is a breakaway up the road. You can see 11 minutes 32 seconds. Monteguti of AG2R Le Mondial, De Marchi of Androni, De Negri of Farnese Vini, Olivier Kaysen of Lotto Belasol, Amador of Movistar, Nicholas Mace of Omega Pharma Quickstep, Olivier of Radio Shack Nissan, and Jan Bárta is the man who's just pushed a little way ahead of Oliveira, Mace and Kaysen here, the remaining men who are trying to chase this man. Jan Bárta, who's had a very good season so far. They must be pretty happy with him in the car of Neta, that's for sure. Bit of housekeeping. Matthew Goss didn't start this morning, neither did Mark Renshaw. Shows you what we mean by the last week. This is now a week for the big climbers and the overall favourites. We understand JJ Haydo and Brett Lancaster also out of the Giro d'Italia. Now, unsurprisingly, Haydo, another sprinter, doesn't like this sort of stuff at all. Lancaster's done his job for Matthew Goss. He'll be off training for the Tour, as Matt Goss is. That's what he said. Well, our eyes are now on the Tour de France. But Mark Cavendish has started this morning in the points leader's jersey. Gave a video interview yesterday, which I saw anyway on the web, saying he wants to take the battle for the points jersey all the way to the finish. in Milan. And Sean, that's a big task for him, because there's points available at the top of each mountain, and for him to struggle over for the next opportunity to gain some points is a big task for him.
Well, when you look at that classification, it's going to be a big task for him to hold on to the points jersey, because there's riders there, who can pick up points on stages like today, and they would be the ones, who can climb very well, because there's a lot of them there very close in that classification. You have Pozzovivo, you have Rodriguez, who was there, you have Heisdal, who's up there, you have Tiralongo. They're all, not that far off. I know they're 25, 30 points down, but still, in the next days there's going to be a lot of opportunities for the guys to pick up points, where for Mark Cavendish it's not going to be easy. He's going to have to calculate his effort and see in the intermediate sprints if he can pick up some points there on some of the stages. But again, it's going to be a big battle. It's not an easy week for the sprinters at all, and the opportunities now all the way from here to the end next Sunday, they're very little for the sprinters.
Absolutely. This is the head of the race. Jan Bárta is the rider you are looking at. A terrific early season, sprung a bit of surprise early on in the season, this man. He's ridden for Neta for the last 3 years. Before that he was with the Austrian Elk House team. We've seen them a couple of times, but not on big races. He won Settimana Coppe Bartali earlier this year. Very good race indeed. He won the individual time trial. He took it away for some very big names. Third overall in the Tour of Britain last year as well, Jan Bárta, so he's got plenty of talent. He's a tough guy as well. Michał Kolarz, Polish rider, holding the mountains classification jersey. Sean, the first jersey that seems under pressure today, certainly from Race Radio telling us, is that Michał Kolarz is beginning to slip off the back of the main peloton here.
Yes, well, as we talked about before we came on air, if he can get into a breakaway and pick up some points, that is his only opportunity or only possibility to hold on to the mountain classification jersey. Otherwise, waiting in the bunch, I don't think he's capable of doing that. He is very strong on the short, tough climbs, not so steep, but when he gets onto the long climbs, as we can see, he's in difficulty at this moment. And for the bunch, they still have about plus 10 kilometres of this climb to go. So I think he's had the glory in his jersey, and it's going to be over for today.
Thomas and Kenya not exactly revelling in the weather here. That's Alessandro De Marchi getting a gilet on. It's cold enough here, Sean, to have the gilet here before they even start running down the other side.
Yes, that tells as you go up the altitude, the temperature dropping, and guys just wrapping up on the climb, that tells us getting cold.
Ten minutes and 57. The gap is coming down very slightly. They're only about halfway up this Col de Joux climb. And once again, it's Liquid Gas controlling here at the front, just as most pundits and directors sportifs said they would, Sean.
Yes, controlling very early, but of course Basso likes the a good tempo on the climb, on the long ones like this, 22k. If it goes slowly in the bunch, well then there could be attacks, and he doesn't like that. So Liquid Gas setting the pace for Basso the way he likes to climb.
Michał Kolarz. A couple of bottles of David Bramati, director sportif there. And they're suffering along with a number of riders. Looks like Brian Bulgak just behind him.
And the raincoat.
And the raincoat as well, yep. We managed to catch up with Damiano Cunego earlier today. Hopefully we'll have him in just a second. 11 minutes and 3 is the gap from our breakaway riders back to the main peloton.
Noi del team Lampre siamo molto concentrati,
Lamprecht going to be very focused. It's a big challenge, a big atmosphere for us, but for all our opponents as well. So we've got to be pretty confident. The last climb is very long but not very difficult. We know that in modern cycling you need to escape a long way to get a gap. Will this happen to you? They are very long and steady climbs. They're not particularly demanding slopes. You have to stay with your opponents. So attacks will be very far away. It'll be difficult today or maybe tomorrow. We saw a little bit of rain this morning. There's some at the top. Will it change things? Well, the weather's very uncertain, says Damiano. We don't know it'll be raining or not at the moment, but if it rains, it'll be an advantage for us and we'll try and take an advantage from it. Do you agree, Sean? Why will it be a particular advantage? Scarponi and Cunego, riders who can support, as you would say, these things a little bit more?
Well, it seems to be. And we know Scarponi, he can ride good in the bad weather conditions, the cold conditions. Cunego himself, I think he supported okay. And the way he's talking there, it doesn't seem to be a problem for the men from Lamprecht.
Not at all. Liquigas must be nervous though today, because they controlled the pace of the peloton for nigh on all the Giro d'Italia. Ivan Basso wants to win this for a third time. He's won in 2006, 2010. He'd like to take another one here, 2012. And this year is a pretty prime year for it. With the absence of Alberto Contador, there's a whole new atmosphere to the race. They've got new challenges in the shape of people like Domenico Pozzovivo, but still a very good chance. Suits him, the course here, Sean. And Liquigas have been not nervy, but they've been laying out their intention all the way through.
Yes, well, Basso has been preparing quietly at the beginning of the year, and he's coming this Giro. It looks like that he's in good shape, seems to be coming good only the last number of weeks, and that is a good time to get your form, start getting it, because in a 3-week tour, if you've been going well in the Ardennes Classics 4 weeks ago, well then it's difficult to continue on and hold that real good shape right through a Giro which is 3 weeks long. But again, how good is Basso going to be? Is he good enough? Is he going to be the best of the favourites here to be able to win it? And as you say, David, to win this Tour of Italy, Liquigas, if they can win it with Basso, well, for Basso then the season is good. And, the way things are going for Basso, he is going to give it, 100% here. And he has been really on his game here. The team has been really good with him, keeping him out of danger. And they're continuing on today. They're the ones who are setting the pace. And he likes this. As we can see, he's sitting here just behind 2 or 3 teammates. He likes that pace, just to wear down everybody else, keep working at it, and that steady, strong pace on the climb. He's real good at that, and the team are doing a good job for the moment. But how good will they be? Can they continue on doing that for the next number of days? That is the question as well, because they've done some on the flat. I wouldn't be concerned about that. But if they start the first day of the mountains and they have a week to go, if they have to do this every day, it's going to be a big ask.
See Frank Schleck on the far right, in the bottom right-hand box it was. You see Frank Schleck there on your screen, in the black and red and white of Radio Shack Nissan on the left-hand side of the peloton, second to back of those types. They're brave and hardy souls.
It's getting warmer.
Should do something about their underpants taste, though. Look at that. That's pretty poor. Jan Bárta is getting warm. Just as you say. Jan Bárta clearly doesn't mind the poor conditions. Frank Schleck, sitting in the peloton, didn't look particularly happy, sitting behind one teammate and right up towards the front, Sean. He prefers this sort of pace of climbing as well, but he doesn't like this weather much.
No, I don't think he would. He wouldn't like this weather. He'd certainly like to have the weather conditions we've had the last 3 or 4 days, which is, perfect for racing. 19, 20 degrees. That would be just lovely conditions for a lot of riders, and certainly for Frank Schleck, he would, like the drier conditions. The descent as well is something that he doesn't like, and this descent we have coming here later on is going to be a bit, dangerous when we have the wet conditions. So. It's an 18k descent, and some of it is pretty technical, and if somebody really push it on, Schleck is not going to be looking forward to this descent.
Yeah, but I'm not sure they will with Liquid Gas controlling it, because Basso is a fair descender, but he wouldn't like to really push it out in these sort of conditions. And it's going to have to take somebody who's got a very aggressive mentality, I think, Sean, to say, right, I'm going to go and streaming down this other side. Maybe some of the guys who want to go for the stage victory today but aren't a massive threat in the overall, maybe they might push on a little bit to get into the bottom of the final climb of the day with some sort of advantage. But you need a big advantage on such a long climb. I don't know. I think Liquid Gas may just control it all the way down.
Well, as you say, somebody who is thinking about the stage can push on, and if anybody push on the descent, well, then everybody wants to follow. And you can be sure as well, if somebody from the thinking of a stage victory wants to go on, there's a few men there in the general classification who are looking for a place in the end of this race. They can descend quite well, like a cruising guy. I think he can descend pretty well. Scarponi can do it quite well also. So there's always, some guys from the general classification. If somebody do start pushing it on, they will follow, and that's where the riders who do not like the descent, who are very nervous on the wet roads, will be getting into difficulty.
Yeah, riders like Rajaski, the Pole, and maybe Rigoberto Urán is another rider who might well have a go at fast descent here. Maybe a rider like a Thomas de Gent, Sean, who's only at 2 minutes and 3 seconds back. He may chance his arm and give it a push today.
Well,
these sort of riders, isn't it?
As we know, Thomas de Gent, he's capable of attacking anywhere. We've seen him, in the final of a race when there's a breakaway of 5 or 6 riders. You're only riding for the minor places, and he still attacks in the final. So he is very capable if he can, stay in this group here, which he is climbing quite well. The longer climbs might be a bit difficulty for him, because the short ones, when I say short, I suppose 6-7 kilometres, he can get up them, but when we get to the ones which are 20 plus kilometres, then he might have difficulty. But if he's here at the top of this climb, he's the one who is very capable of pushing on the descent.
I'm not sure we know whether he's got a difficulty with these long climbs, as he seems to be steadily improving, and this might be his first chance for us to see just exactly how well he's going. Jan Bárta here, winner of the Settimana Coppi e Bartoli, a very important race, Sean, and he took some big scalps there early in the year.
Well, he is. He's riding well. I mean, you see the results he's had this year, and he's a really good rider, a class rider, and at the moment, the way he's riding out here in front, I don't understand really, because the other breakaway, there's about 5 of them chasing there, and they were at about 30 seconds at a moment there. When you look at the distance to go on that, I ask, why does he go away so early? If he could stay with this group and start, to ride together a bit. I think we have 4 chasers now maybe, so he's really keen to push on, but it's a long ways. When he went, it was well over 60 kilometres to go. Now we still have 52 kilometres to the finish. And when you look at the advantage, 10 minutes, it's a nice advantage at this moment. If they could maybe work a bit together on the climb and get to the final climb with 7 or 8 minutes, well, then there'd be a possibility of staying all the way to the end.
Jan Bárta, the face and riding style of a backstreet pugilist. He looks like a tough nut when he takes those helmet and glasses off, and he clearly likes staying out there by himself. Sean and I were talking about an ad break. Sean said, well, why didn't you stay with the other guys behind him? You can ride in the shelter a little bit, ride with some company. Maybe they could pull out. We were talking about just now. And I was suggesting perhaps a rider like Bárta and some other people. And yourself, when you go out with on your training rides, sometimes you just need to ride at your own pace, in your own headspace, and get that sort of mojo going, sort of get the meditational feeling going, so you can just ride by yourself. I don't know. Maybe he's just a nutter. Who knows?
And the big question is, how good is he today? If he is real strong, he could stay out there on his own. But again, the chasers are, working well together, and it's all about having enough energy, enough power to hold on. And on a big day like this, as we see Bárta's giving it, full stick almost, still 50 kilometres plus to the finish, you could pay for it on the final climb big time.
You could indeed. Welcome back. We're in the mountains. Yes, indeed. It's the Italian Alps for the Giro. And this week is where the Giro is decided. Today may show who's capable and who isn't of sticking the pace in the big mountains. Will they be looking at each other? Who will be turning the screw and putting pressure on another rider? At the moment, as typically you would expect, a breakaway went up the road. Took a long time to get away, though, 70k into this 206-kilometer stage. And it's all split up now. Jan Bárta, the Czech rider, has ridden away. These four men are chasing. Monteguti of AG2R Le Mondial is chasing De Negri, De Marchi. They're all trying to get some sort of purchase on Jan Bárta, but behind, three riders remaining have been dropped. Olivier Kaysen, Nelson Oliveira and Nicolas Mace. 2 minutes and 23 seconds down on Jan Bárta now, and in the middle there's four guys trying to chase to get up or stay with Jan Bárta. They've all had him in their sights about 12, 15, 20 seconds up the road. And there he is, all by himself, just riding alone, with four riders about 15 seconds back. And 22 now we get from Race Radio. Face of Ivan Basso. Doesn't look particularly happy, does he? I think any of them do, to be honest. I don't think I'd feel particularly happy.
Would you, with the final climb of 27 kilometres?
No.
We can see.
I think I'd be a bit more worried about what's coming before it. The run down into Châtillon, if somebody tried to have a go.
And we can see Basso there under his helmet, the cycling cap, so it tells that the condition is it's cool there on the climb. Otherwise you would take that off, because when you're climbing it can get a bit too warm, but it must be quite cold. And we did see 4 degrees at one time there.
Rabotini with a problem. And Jan Bárta still on his way. 22 seconds. I'm not quite sure what he's doing. Here's Rabotini. Change of bike. And being shoved off. Slightly more. Is that a standard passerby, actually, at the side of the road, giving him a shove. Well, we saw Lucas Ginto giving Alfredo Belloni a shove the other day. I think he'd be quite happy for somebody slightly more svelte to give him a go. Matteo Rabotini.
He's looking at the other bikes on the car.
Yeah, saying, why can't I have one of them?
Can I have one with a motor?
Exactly. Farnese Vinia, sponsored by Vespa. Agnoli. And Maciej Bodnar is the rider at the front, so the Polish rider, a man who supports these conditions particularly well. And you can see all the big-name super specialists as far as domestiques coming towards the front now. Bodnar, Agnoli, and then Basso. And if you're looking at the line for Lampre, Alessandro Spezialezzi is the man first in line there. Well done, keep going. I wonder what's going through that man's mind. We've been very attentive so far, and he's been riding himself into good shape. Sean had a pretty disastrous early part of the season. Didn't go according to plan, but he's kept his head. He's ridden himself into pretty good shape. And Scarponi keeps throwing him a look, seeing if everything's there, seeing how he's feeling. He rode up to the side of him just now on his left-hand side, looked across to see that look in the eyes, to see exactly how Basso's body language was. The Lampre man just behind Basso is Alessandro Spezialezzi, as we were saying. And behind him is Scarponi. It's a steady pace, Sean. It's not slow.
No, it's certainly not slow, because we have seen on the rear end of the peloton quite a number of kilometres further down this climb, riders getting blown out the rear door and so they're climbing at a good rate, but they're not giving it, their 100% at the moment, and that's what their leader, even Basso, likes. Just a good, strong pace and keep working at it, and that way there's not as many riders think of going in the attack, because if you slow it down a lot, if the bunch just starts going very slow, well then they will attack left, right and centre, and even Basso doesn't like that. He just wants this pace, as we can see they're setting at the moment, and that suits him. And also
it suits just about everybody else, I think.
Well, it suits everybody else as well. It suits the other big favourites, but it will be interesting now on the descent. Will they just allow Liquigas to continue on as they've been making the pace on all this climb of 22k? Will they allow them to do the descent as well, or will somebody try and push on? Normally in the last kilometre, 2 kilometres to climb, it starts getting nervous. Everybody wants to be in the top 15, 20 riders to commence the descent.
What is going on? Is this the incredibly bad underpants club of northern Italy? Come on, lads, sort it out. We're supposed to be an incredibly fashion-conscious nation. Gloves going on for the descent, Sean, so it's pretty nippy out there. Not good at all. It's going to suit Joaquim Rodriguez this pace. It's suiting Scarponi, no problem at all. That Rohanu's team of Androni are up towards the front as well. Lots of concentration. We've seen concentration right the way through the Giro d'Italia, but I sense a little tension in some of these riders. Bodnar has really got the head on for doing his job here. Agnoli keeps looking behind him, make sure that Basso is safe and in his wheel. There's a lot of tension as they come towards the top of this climb of the Col de Juno.
Yes, you can see there is a lot of concentration in the faces of the riders here, and I suppose it's a big day. Everybody has their role, their job to do here, and the riders on the front, Bodnar, and the guys who want to make this pace here, for them as well, it's probably difficult to keep on making the pace, so they're just really concentrating on what they're doing. And the other big favourites also, concentration is a big thing here, and just to get everything right, keep climbing in the right gear, also keep eating a little bit when you get an occasion here, keep drinking as well, because that's the other thing, I suppose. When the weather conditions change, sometimes when it gets a bit colder, you might not feel like drinking, and you might not feel it to eat, and then you can pay for that in the end. So just concentrate. Real concentration is very important for everything, that you get everything right on a big day. And this is going to be, I think it's a very special day, because it's the first real big day in the mountains. Everybody is a little bit anxious.
Says it all, really, doesn't it? Frank Schleck's grimace at the weather conditions. Meanwhile, Jan Bárta continues climbing towards the top of the Col de Joux. Well, eating and drinking is a big thing, Sean. Normally, on a long descent that isn't too difficult, you would possibly make sure that you got something out your back pocket and took a little bite of something on the way down if it wasn't going hell for leather. But it might be a bit different today if the weather conditions are a bit tricky, and that it causes a problem now. Is when do you actually eat? It's quite difficult.
Yes, well, that's the other thing. You have to remember that the descent is going to be maybe a little bit more dangerous, a bit more tricky in the wet conditions. So you'll have to eat a little bit more on the uphill when you get the opportunity, and drink a little bit. Where on the dry conditions, we've seen the riders, they can just drink and eat something very easy on the descent. But if the road is wet, well, then you always have to just be careful in case it slows suddenly in front of you on the wet road. That's a bit more dangerous.
Yes, I have the distinct feeling that Liquigas are just going to control the descent. Coming over the top here and running down the other side. Too dangerous for their man to go absolutely flat out. But they can descend very quickly, Liquigas. As a team, they've got a good group of descenders, but I'm not sure it's going to happen for them today, or for us. Jan Bárta may sense this. The gap is coming down, Sean. He's gradually losing the advantage he had, and even on a climb like this, you can see how well Mathieu Bodnar and the other boys from Liquigas are doing. They've cut the gap down by about a minute or so.
Yes, and 9:48 at the moment. Depend on what happened on the descent as well.
There's a Schleck at the back here,
You
Sean.
can see Schleck is.
He's right at the back.
Is he right at the back?
It looks to me as though he's right at the back. He is.
Yes, he is.
Maybe been back to the car to get a rain jacket or to drop something up or pick something up, but he's just sitting right at the back. Jose Serpa was just behind him.
Well, for the moment, with the liquid gas just making a strong pace on the front of the bunch, he can move up before the descent, but if he hangs around there as we go over the top and start making the descent in that position, it's not a good place for Schleck, because first of all, he's not a good descender, so if you're not, you have to really start out in front and try and follow some of the better riders down, because if somebody allows a gap of 20, 30 metres, Frank Schleck is not the man who can come around him.
This is Ruhanu. Ruhanu's decided to make a move by himself. He was being paced at the front. Serpa was doing a lot of job, and so was Jackson Rodriguez. Oh, and that looks like Cunego going after him. Oh, it's not going to be what we thought it might be. Small alarm bells will start ringing in the liquid gas camp. Ruhanu is a little bit dangerous. And Lampre have got two big guns to fire off here. So they can play the 1-2 against liquid gas. Ruhanu goes, and it looks like Cunego is going with him and has reached him. He's been in fine shape, Damiano Cunego. Mustn't panic, liquid gas. They must just keep the pace going. Cunego is a very good descender. Ruhanu, not quite so good. And remember, way back in the Giro d'Italia in the past, when Cunego was battling against Jaroslav Popovic, at that time a very promising young rider in the north of Italy. Popovic, his lines through corners was terribly erratic. He had all sorts of different cornering lines, whereas Cunego was very smooth. It's both as fast as each other. They're both effective, but this is a big attack by Ruhanu, Sean.
Yes, it is a big attack, and he's not allowing Cunego to get onto his wheel. He's keeping it going, pushing on there, and he knows that if Cunego can get to his wheel, well, then the possibility of being allowed to stay out in front is much, much less. Where if he can get away on his own, and when you look at the general classification, he's that bit further down, and he might be allowed to take an advantage sufficient that he can make the descent. But what is the tactic here? Is he trying to get away to get across to the breakaway, or does he want to get across maybe to make the descent, to be in the front, get to the top of the climb 2 minutes ahead? That way he can make the descent with a bit of ease. That is also possible. That could be his tactic.
Well, in order to get away from the liquid gas pace, he'd have to put in a big attack, but I'm not sure that if you commit yourself this far out, Sean, he looked very aggressive to me, that it's not going to be one that he wants to take all the way. But it's a different situation for Lampre as Jan Bárta goes over the top. Now let's see how this descent is going to be like in these conditions. A different situation for Lampre, Sean. They've got two big favourites, and every other team's got to watch out for both of them.
Yes, well, I think Cunego, in the general classification, they're not going to allow him at 1:37 in the general. I'd be surprised if Lampre, allowed that to ride away. But again, when you look at the final climb of the day, if Lampre just continue on making the pace and Cunego do ride over the top just behind Rugano, he can come back to him on the descent. But liquid gas might not get too conservative. Just continue on making the pace, make the descent, and the final climb, which is a huge one, 27 k's. They might just make the calculation. Well, these two guys we're having our screen now, Rugano and Cunego. They're not going to arrive with any more than a minute and a half, 2 minutes to the final climb, and in that case, it's going to be difficult to stay out there.
Cunego gets into the wheel of Ruhanu. Let's see how this is going to work out for Jan Bárta. Now, just watch the line. For those of you watching for the first time, don't watch the body, watch the rear wheel. Watch the way the bike skips around, or what sort of line he takes. If you watch the rider's body, if you're watching the Giro for the first time, you'll see how he shifts his weight on the bike. That's fine, but just look at that rear wheel and see how he corrects the bike at any time. The climb was resurfaced here, and the descent was resurfaced about 3 years ago. And so all that emulsion that comes out, the oils that come out of the tarmac when it's laid down, won't be there anymore. If it had been laid down brand new tarmac this year or before the Giro arrived, that would have been pretty tricky on the descent, to be honest, because it gets quite slippery, amazingly. A road doesn't get very, very grippy just because you lay it down straight away. It gets grippy when the oils and emulsions and stuff within the tarmac rise to the surface and get washed away. And also the rubber from tyres gets laid down on it, which sticks to the tarmac and makes it more grippy. Let's watch this descent. Bárta's taking it pretty easy here, Sean. Yeah, he's not confident, not happy.
No, doesn't look to be happy there, and the line as well, he's not getting as perfect, but I suppose it's a long ways out, and there's no reason to really push it too much here. Still all this descent to go, which is 18 k's in total of a descent, so just get down it and see what he's got on the final climb. But it's, we can see that the bunch is, I think, up the pace a bit. We could see on the hairpins where we could see Rugano and Cunego just up ahead, and the bunch seemed to be upping the pace a little bit.
Riders beginning to suffer. This looks like Jan Barkelens, and they're all going to be strung out for the rest of today. And there's some miserable looking faces back here. Penyuk goes past us, Alexander Krajinski, and this is Frank Schleck. Well, of course, he did get brought down in a tangle with Alex Rasmussen, which they still haven't worked out who's responsible for. Schlecky says it's Rasmussen. Rasmussen says, you're a big fat liar. You can't, big skinny liar. It's not my fault. And he's saying he's suffering with the shoulder still. But he said he must be suffering an awful lot with the shoulder if he's off the back this far, Sean.
Yes.
Oh, look at Rojano.
Yes, Rojano is putting on another bit of pressure on Cunego here, and Cunego in a bit of difficulty to match the pace of Rugano, but Schleck, yes, he was sitting a long ways off, and of course if there's a little bit of an up in pace and riders start to lose contact in the bunch, the gap opens slowly. First of all it's 2 bike lengths, then it's 5, then it's 6, and you look up ahead and 20-30 metres ahead, 10-15 riders ahead of you, there's a big gap of 30 metres, and that is difficult to close on a climb, especially if you're suffering. And if you start very much on the rear, as we see Schleck was doing, well then it's not the place to be at all. If you're suffering, you have to try and stay somewhere in the top 20-30 riders, and if there's a little bit of an acceleration, well, you're not too far off, but it doesn't look like Schleck is happy or not feeling good at all here.
Watch. Jan Bárta very unhappy with this corner. No, that's it. That's the end of Jan Bárta's. I think Jan Bárta will be brought back fairly quickly if he's descending like that. Either the road is absolutely treacherous or he's just not in the least bit happy. I would suspect the latter. Miserable day, and Jan Bárta very unhappy on some of these curves. It'll be interesting to see how much gap he has over the chasing riders, Montaguti, De Negri and so on. Taking it very gingerly indeed. It's this bend we'll notice. Let's have a look. Very wide, comes in across the apex, out the other side.
Okay,
yep, he's still very nervous though, and the other riders don't seem to be coming down chasing after him, so maybe they're nervous as well. Maybe it is a bit too slippery. Well, Cunego is dropping back behind Rojano. Let's see exactly what it'll be like when he gets over the top, because he is good at this sort of stuff. Has he lost even more ground to Rojano here? One would suspect so. Jose Rojano is riding very, very well indeed. This is a concerted effort to get right the way to the end, I would think, Sean.
Yes, I think he is really pushing it on here, and depending on what the tactic is here, there could be a number of tactics. Is he trying to get away to be on the final climb maybe for some of the other riders of his team, or is he just trying to go it alone? And when you look at the general classification at 3 minutes, he's a danger man, so if he was at 9 or 10 minutes, well then he would be allowed much more time of an advantage, and back in the bunch they would not get concerned about him. But again, he probably thinks that he can get up this one and get close to the breakaway, but he still have a long ways to go to get across to the 4 riders we had, which was chasing Bárta at the last time checks we had.
He has indeed. 40k to the finish. Remember, it's a massively long climb, and hey, Amador! Whoa. Good lad! Looking like a MotoGP rider. Get that back wheel out there. Look at him! Bonkers. All full of nutters today. Fantastic. I know a lot of people worry about descents, but you know what? What goes up must come down. It's all part of the great game of cycling. You've got to be good at everything in this game. Jose Rojano. That's exactly what we were talking about earlier, Sean. Here's a feed area where the Soigneur's are at the side of the road with the musettes. They can hand them over to the team. They can get a little bit of food. It's exactly what we're saying. Normally, at this particular point in the dry, you'd be able to take a little bit of food, maybe a bit of drink, but it doesn't look like that on the descent. It's pretty slippery. And somebody might be able to take some if they're not going too fast. Whoops, in the peloton. Hang on to it, Jose. And then probably we'll just have to eat at the bottom of the final slope of the day.
Well, it
might be a bit late by that time.
It's going to be a little bit more difficult to eat on the descent, and depending on how the bunch go on the descent here, if they go down it pretty easy, well then you could get a moment where there's a bit of a straight of 150, 200 metres plus. You can get a drink in that time without any problem. You could also get some food, and they will be able to do it. But if you're being pushed on the descent and there's some riders at the front of the bunch who want to push on a lot, well then the opportunity is much less to eat or drink anything on the descent.
Let's watch Damiano Cunego now. He is a very good descender. Remember, we've got this overbanding as well, and this whacking great big white line through the middle. That doesn't help. And let's see where Rojano is only just up the road here. And look, Cunego has taken out a huge amount of ground out of Rojano already. Over the top come the rest of the peloton. Not much chance. What's the rolled up newspaper doing in the back of the Euskaltel rider's jacket? For those of you new to it, it's the old trick of stuffing a newspaper down the front of your jersey, or to just... Rojano's just been eaten alive by Cunego. Wow. To block the wind. It keeps you a lot warmer. Very good insulator.
Come on, Jose.
Indeed. Need to let go of your brakes a bit. It's difficult, though, to have that sort of... I mean, what is this man doing? Good grief. Whee! Down we go. You've got to have that confidence. It's difficult to get that confidence. You've either got it or you haven't. Some people never really get it. And sometimes if you've had a big spill, you never regain it. Erratic would be a good word at this point. Spectacular, though. Let's have a look. What are we getting a replay of? Fab. Look, big slide. He's taking a few chances. Here we go again. He's going to come off. He's going to come off. 18k of descent, and let's see how long it is before it's... Tears before bedtime here. I shall be mightily impressed if he gets to the bottom without coming down.
Yes, he is pushing
Whoa!
a little bit too much here, as we can see. And you have to make the calculation as well. If you're going for the finish at the bottom of this climb, okay, you can take risk and it's worth doing it. But with a climb of 27 k's to get up as we get to the final, it's a bit much the way he is pushing it on here.
Katusha take station around their leader. Joaquim Rodriguez there in the black rain jacket. There are UCI rules, by the way, that said you should be able to see the numbers, or you should be able to identify the teams with rain capes on, but quite frankly, they just ignore them, and nobody really enforces them. It makes it very difficult to see, but, you know, the conditions are so bad, nobody really worries about it. You've got to protect your rider. Cunego has just left Jose Rojano for dead. Looks very, very smooth, and let's go back to Andre Amador if we can and see how he's going. This is the front of the main peloton, and already it looks as if, Sean, Liquigas have had to drop back a little bit to sit around Ivan Basso, who's off the front of the peloton now. Amador. Looks like Astana at the head of affairs, unless this is a chasing group, which I don't think it is. Unless, and we haven't seen any indication that Liquigas have put the hammer down and gone away.
No.
I'd be very
highly unlikely. We can
exactly.
see Rodriguez is sitting there, and he's just following the riders just in front of him. If there was a number of the favourites gone ahead, he would be pushing on a bit more, and his teammates would be certainly pushing on. But Basso has slipped back quite a bit in that group. I can't see them there on the top 15 riders.
Nope. Taking it easy, or just not very happy. I suspect taking it easy. Funnily enough, this is more dangerous than what we saw earlier, because Amador and the rest of them will be coming across wet patches interspersed with dry patches, and some of these white lines hold the water a bit longer than the tarmac, so he's got to watch himself here. But he's really taken some huge chances, Andre Amador. Chapeau. He was still upright, frankly. Jan Bárta did not like that at all, Sean, did he? And he's already been passed. And Jose Rojano doesn't like it either. I think that may have been the calculation of Damiano Cunego as well, saying, look, I'm not going to use all my energy chasing Jose Rojano because I know I can take him on the descent anyway.
Yes, I would say the calculation was definitely made by Damiano Cunego. Just leave Rugano, just push on there, and I'll take him on the descent. And it was rapidly, he had him pulled back and just went by him at such a fast rate, and Rugano just, made no effort to get in the wheel, just not confident at all. At the speed Cunego was going down, Rugano just wasn't going to try and do that because he just didn't feel he could do it.
Here we go again with Andre Amador. Oh, he is taking chances, and he looks up every time he gets out of the apex of a bend to see where everybody else is. Oh man, I can hardly watch. He's gonna get a cover cropper surely. Well, it's making entertaining viewing, but I'm not sure that I'm sure there's a lot of people sitting on their sofas at home with heart in mouth, especially Andre Amador fans. Damiano Cunego smoothly descending, and actually he's probably not descending that much slower than Amador. He just looks slower. Roman Kreuzinger's team of Astana here at the front now. Looking after Roman Kreuzinger, Tirolongo second from the front there. There's Joaquim Rodriguez doing okay. And there's a little scattering of Liquigas riders a bit further back. But there'll be all sort of riders slipping off the back here. Monteguti is chasing Amador at the moment. De Marchi and De Negri are now with Jan Bárta. And Andre Amador continues at the front into Saint Vincent. The only thing I know about Saint Vincent, it's got a journalism prize that they present every year here. They should present a spectacular descending prize. Question is who's got the legs on the final climb of the day, Sean. I think it's all going to be interesting to see what the gaps are like between our men who are ahead of the peloton, but are we just going to see everybody holding fire until the last 2, 3, 5 kilometres of the climb in the peloton?
That is the big question. Who is going to start, going in a long climb like we've got 27 kilometres, the final climb of the day? Is there somebody going to start stirring it up very early? Highly unlikely, because 27 kilometres, if you start going at the earlier slopes of it, you can pay dearly on the top, and the big favourites, I'm not sure they will really have a go. Again, it will be the situation. Basso, he will put his men on the front, and he will just start making the tempo again. And we've seen there in this group of chasers, we can see Cruisinger, I think, is there. Astan, and there's a few of the other favourites, but Basso is not there, and there seems to be a little bit of a split, so Basso seems to have lost a little bit of ground there, but we're not getting really good shots to see how far off he is the other big favourites.
I think he might have been in the blue rain jacket, just a little bit back off Rodriguez. This is Paolo Terralongo saying it's the first really big mountain stage. There's 2 long climbs, difficult ones, but not too tough. Today will be a bit of a waiting race. We're just talking about that, because as far as we are concerned at Astana, there we've got to wait for Basso Scarponi to move, and the ones who want to win the Giro. Roman is doing okay. We're all behind him today, but mostly for tomorrow. Yes. Is it a good course for you today?
Sono 50 km di salita.
Yes, it's quite a long way for 50 odd kilometres from the bottom to the finish, so from the 2 climbs to the finish. So today we hope that in the mountains we'll be able to hold it together. Could the overall finish could the overall leadership change today? Well, today it's just one of those ones where everybody will stay and watch, and everybody will control it. Andre Amador back on the road. He's after that elusive win, Sean. He's been in a breakaway, about 3 times, I think, so far.
Still pushing on.
Yeah, he's still pushing on.
With Montecuti at 17 seconds over race radio. So he hasn't pulled out a big advantage. When you see the way he was throwing the bike into them corners, the risk that he was looking like he was taking, but as you said, some of the riders were going down, the line was better, much more smoother, and they can be going just as fast.
Yeah, it's difficult to tell, always difficult to tell, but it makes good viewing, that's for sure.
He must ride motorbike when he was younger, because he had that style where you kind of sit.
Absolutely, sit off the saddle,
yes,
and
like
slide it around.
Like MotoGP.
Yeah, exactly, MotoGP, yeah, get a 2-wheel slide on, Mick Doohan style. 27 kilometres, or just over 27 kilometres to go. We are coming up to Cervinia. The climb today, it ramps up a little bit, Sean. It's not super smooth. There are a couple of more difficult ramps in it, but it's a long climb. That's the main thing. Last person to win here was Ivan Gotti, riding for Seiko way back in 1997 here. Interestingly, all the other times that we've been to Cervinia here on the Giro d'Italia, that's twice, it's both been the 14th stage, and it's the 14th stage today. There we are, that's the useless stat for the day. All those of you out there. You wouldn't say Amador was a graceful rider, would you, Sean?
Certainly not. And we can see there behind Montecuti we had, but now he's being joined by the 2 others, Di Negri, and the other one is Di Marchi. So 3 chasers here, and it will be interesting to see now where was our leader, Bárta? We haven't seen him.
He's just behind them there.
Is he between? He's between.
No, he's just with those guys that's chasing
he's just
there.
behind. Okay, so they have pulled him back also.
Yeah.
So we have 3 chasers, and it's been interesting to see now how much time they have on the other chasers, Cunego and the rest of the peloton.
I'd love to know how Domenico Pozzovivo managed going down there. We haven't seen anything of him at all. But my guess is that the boys from Astana were controlling the pace, making sure it's all okay. It's a bit of a dangerous game with Pozzovivo around. Gruppetto and Mark Cavendish have just gone through the top of the climb, and they will be now on the descent. Now, this is an interesting talking point, Sean, because you all know a lot of sprinters are excellent descenders because they have to be. First of all, they've got very little fear. Secondly, they're brilliant bike handlers. Thirdly, they're always off the back. So if they're going to make some sort of ground up and make some time up to keep within the time limit, they really have to descend quick.
Yes, and 20:50 is the time they're behind the leader. So on the bunch, not that far off, because the bunch had 7-8 minutes about that on the first man over the top, who was Bárta. So around the 12 minutes, maybe 11 minutes for the group of Cavendish, and as you said, they will make a good descent, so I don't think there's going to be a problem for the time limit there. But again, the final climb, such a long one, if you're really suffering, you have to be able to stay in the bus, because this group, you know, they go along at a nice pace. It's not that they're going dead slow. You have to be able to sit in there and hang in, and if you're on a bad day or a difficult day and you lose contact, that's where it gets real dangerous.
Kreuziger's Astana team are leading them down at the moment. There's Scarponi just sitting behind in the pink and the blue. He's the first man in line there, I would guess. Where is Ivan Basso here? We haven't seen any shots of him. It's a bit difficult for the motorcycle to pick up on him. And Andre Amador begins the ascent of the final climb of the day to Cervinia. 2,001 meters in height. And it's been miserable weather at the front. Just look how smooth Cunego is compared to Amador. This is the same Ben Russo Amador going around on like a sixpenny bit. Threepenny bit, should I say. Sixpennies were perfectly round. Well, Cunego is about the size of a sixpenny and goes round in the same smoothness. Look at the difference, though. And I bet he's not descending any slower, Sean. Not really.
Yes, that's probably the case. He's probably just going down just as fast as Amador was doing, but the way he was, you know, throwing the bike around, it looked very spectacular. Made some great shots.
It did make some great shots. I'm just pleased he stayed upright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 riders from Astana, and they are pushing on now here, Sean, which would say, seem to me that a number of riders are in trouble. Scarponi is there. Rodriguez is there. We can see Rodriguez in the pink shorts, black rain jacket. Scarponi of Lampre is there.
Gadre is also there. Is that so?
Not quite sure. There's the intermediate sprint. Not that it matters. Andre Amador, Matteo Monteguti and Paolo Di Negri. Will they gain seconds? But there's no points available. No seconds bonus available here. Points are available, but no seconds available on this stage. It is the first stage in the Giro d'Italia where there are no bonus seconds available. Jan Bárta, Matteo Monteguti, Di Marchi and Di Negri there. Whoop! Pop! Onto the cobblestones goes Damiano Cunego. Riding well. He's been in very good form, Sean. He was in great form in the Giro del Trentino. Didn't quite pull it off in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but he really went for the win in Giro del Trentino, which he'd won twice before. He really wanted to take it in the end, but he came up against an on-form, or an awesomely on-form, Domenico Pozzovivo. I think it took a little bit out of his legs for Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but it does show that he's been in good form. I mean, how easy is it to carry that form from something like Liège to here?
Well, it's not easy when you're in good shape. In the time of Liège-Bastogne-Liège, which is a number of weeks ago, sometimes the final week of a 3-week tour, as we're getting into in this Giro, you can pay the price, and it will be interesting to see how well Cunego will manage here. And in the next number of days in the big mountains. Will he be able to stay pretty close to the big favourites? And we know that he can lose a little bit of time, but he's also capable of losing a huge amount of time on a day. He can have a real bad one and lose 8-10 minutes, and that is the concern I would have for Cunego, especially when he's been going the time of the Ardennes Classics. It's quite a time ago.
25 kilometres to go. Beautiful sunshine at the bottom here for Andre Amador. The question is how far behind are the chasing men? And actually Cunego didn't have too much of a gap over the peloton, Sean, when you saw them come round into that cobbled section. And I think Corsica's Astana team deciding that Cunego a little bit too much of a threat will shut that one down. And they're going pretty quick here. Cunego the threat, and that's why they have increased the pace on the lower sections of the descent where they felt it was getting a little bit more grip. Still, we don't know how Ivan Basso was faring, and we certainly don't know how Domenico Pozzovivo was faring. We could see Kruziger, we could see Scarponi, and we could see Gadre and Rodriguez up towards the front, but still some big names missing from that little descent that we could see. He's had a terrifically successful Giro d'Italia so far in terms of aggression, Sean, being out there, but he hasn't pulled off a stage win yet.
No, hasn't pulled it off, but certainly very aggressive in the race, and being up there on the breakaways, aggressive on the descents as well, as we see there on the earlier part when it looked like it was very, very slippery and the wet road. I was really concerned that he was going to start sliding out, but got down it well, and the spectacular descent now. He's going to have to work real hard, because we can see here this chasing group. I don't think they are finished yet, and Amador might have difficulty holding them off.
Damiano Cunego to me, Sean, doesn't look completely committed there. He's looking around to where he is in the town, having a bit of a look around. I think he knows he hasn't made up enough ground.
Well, he would probably made aware by his team director.
Just waiting for the peloton to arrive, I think.
Yes, he knows that he has a very slim advantage, and the gap out to the breakaway, of course, is very big all the time, so he's going to be in no man's land for a long time. And if you would tackle this climb in that situation and start giving it a lot, close to 100%, a 27 kilometre climb, when you get pulled back by the group, which he will in a number of kilometres if he did continue. So best thing to back off and wait and just join in and get in with the group of leaders.
This is the pink jersey group, as we can see, and who has made it and who hasn't made it is the big question. Damiano Cunego continuing.
12 for the peloton on the leaders, on the leader.
Andre Amador, the leader on the road on the left-hand side, and then Demarchi just peeling off from the four here on your right-hand screen. Monteguti in the brown shorts of AG2R Le Mondial at the front, then Paolo Di Negri in the fluorescent yellow of Farnese Vini, then Jan Bárta, who led most of the way up all the way up with the first climb, and then went down with the brakes permanently on, as Andre Amador came absolutely flying past him. No lack of commitment. Looks a bit of a bruiser, doesn't he, Sean? He's got that look like he's bulldog chewing a wasp look. Talking of which, did you hear what happened in the Tour of California with Jens Vogt? A bee landed on his lip while he was doing the time trial and stung him, so he ate it. Only Jens could do that. Damiano Cunego at 1:37, not being given any chance to get away, as Roman Krosinger's Astana team want to shut that one down. went off after Jose Rohan, who saw the opportunity to go, Sean. It was a reasonable move to give it a go. Nice to see, look, see very low section rims. I wouldn't be at all surprised, actually, if they weren't aluminium rims as well on that bike. I can't see them close up. But sometimes, in the wet weather, they're a little bit more predictable. They might not be, of course. They may be very low profile carbon ones, which are coming into fashion now. I'm not sure the weather's going to make its mind up what it wants to do until we get halfway up this climb. Jan Bakkelen's hanging into the back here. And still, we've yet to see Ivan Basso, we've yet to see Domenico Pozzovivo. That looks like Pozzovivo on the right-hand side of your shot there. Not too sure. Could be... There's 2 or 3 short road. There he is, Pozzovivo. Hanging in there, Sean, then. So he managed to make the descent okay. Yes,
he's made it in this main bunch here, and a good job, because in the earlier part there it looked pretty treacherous, and it was a very wet road. So he's done well to hang in there and stay with the main favourites.
Guti, Di Marchi, De Negri and Bárta are the riders on the chase after André Amador. And with 23 kilometres to go, it's all uphill now to the finish at Cervinia. I'm surprised that the Liquigas boys allowed Kreuziger and the Astana team to set the pace at the front there. They're very good descenders, Liquigas. Maybe Basso was feeling a little bit under pressure, didn't like that descent, and he wanted his men around him in case he lost any time and had to chase back on. Or maybe they thought, well, I'll tell you what, just let them get on with it. Maybe it shows Kreuziger was a bit more nervous and needed to shut down that gap.
Well, the problem is with your leader, if he's nervous on the descent and somebody else takes it up, you've just got to follow in the wheels. But if you cannot follow, well, then you have to drop off, and as a domestique you just have to stay back with your leader, and it's a really difficult one. On the descent it's majorly difficult if you're a pretty good descender and your leader has difficulty following the wheel and you feel quite comfortable. It's an experience that they will have with Basso, and maybe that was the reason somebody wanted to push on, so they all just drop back slowly instead around Basso and wait until they get down, because then immediately when you get to this point or a little bit earlier, you can ride and get back into the tail of the bunch very quickly again if you have a number of teammates to do that.
Damiano Cunego on the left-hand side of your shot. He's 40 seconds now ahead of Jose Rohan. He went away from the front of the peloton, but wasn't much descending. Not quite sure what Damiano Cunego is plugging on for. Maybe he feels as though he can gain some time. I very much doubt it, because riding by himself against the peloton, he's got 7.5 minutes to gain on Amador, so it's not a case of stage win, but I don't think the gamble has quite paid off, Sean, at the moment. I'm not really sure the team will know what to do with him here as it goes up for the next 22 kilometres.
Well, I think at the moment we can see he's just climbing here and he's not giving it anything near 100%, and he's going to continue on at this because he has about 2 minutes of an advantage. It looked like when we got to the very bottom of the descent in Châtillon, I was calculating it was much less, so the bunch was much closer to him, but still a nice advantage in 2 minutes there, and he's just going to keep on working at it. And if there's a lot of attacks maybe in the earlier part, well, he's ahead of that, and that always helps, because if you have to make these sudden bursts in the earlier kilometres of the climb, he's going to make another few kilometres here before he's pulled back, and if he can make it at a slow rate, and I think that's what he's doing at the moment, he's just climbing there, giving it 85-90%, but not digging deep for the moment to play in the waiting game.
André Amador has 8 minutes now well, nearly 9 minutes actually over the pig jersey group. There's 1 minute and 5 seconds over the chasing group. Most of the work's being done by Montaguti. Here is Ivan Basso for the first time with their best young rider Damiano Russo behind him. And so far, Sean, we've been very lacking in ability to see exactly where all those big favourites are on the road against each other. We know that Kruisinger, Galdre, Rodriguez and Scarponi were all together. This man, of course, is further up the road, but we really don't know where Basso is.
No, I don't know where Basso is, but I reckon he's in that group. We haven't been seeing any shots of a group out the rear there. It looked like that was the peloton where we see Basso in a shot just a moment ago. So I reckon he's in the main group there, and all the big favourites except for Schleck. Frank Schleck, we haven't seen him, and he was a long ways off on the climb to see, make his way back through it and get into the main part of the more front end of the bunch with the big favourites. So he's still out the rear. We'll have to wait and see. And as we
Your intelligent guess on that?
I doubt if Schleck made it back in. The way he was looking, it didn't look good. But again, it was still quite a number of kilometres for the top, and we know Schleck's climbing ability. He can get into his rhythm there and just go through groups of riders, pass riders, and make it into the front.
.21.5 kilometres of climbing still to go. It's a good day for Amador and breakaways to try and stay there, Sean, because in this very first day of the proper high mountains, first of all, you've got to be able to ride in the high mountains, and secondly, the big favourites are still all marking each other. So if you think you've got the legs, it's not a bad day to have a go.
No, it's not a bad day at all. And when you look at the advantage for the breakaway and Amador here, like, it's 9 minutes of an advantage. The concern will be the four chasers now, how far they are off. We could see him there having a look down to the right to see where they are. I think they're not that far off, so if there's somebody strong in that four-man chasing group, they could start coming across Amador.
The gap is coming down between the four on the right-hand side. A lot of work being done by Matteo Montaguti at the moment, and Andre Amador is at the head of the race. And as you said, Sean, it's clearly not over yet for that chasing group.
No, certainly not. 1 minute advantage, with the four chasers still with 20 kilometres to go. It's not a lot a minute, and Amador, he's out there on his own. If the four chasers can ride a bit together and just share the space petting on the front, well, then we could see them just pulling eating into that advantage. But again, it's all about how fresh they are and what they have got left, how much energy they have got. If the four chasers are all suffering a lot, well, then Amador could be the strongest one. He could just hang on to this advantage for a long time, and then making the calculation back to the bunch, almost 9 minutes, it's a good advantage. And unless there's a lot of attacks in the earlier part of this climb, he could go very close to the finish, maybe go all the way.
He could well do. And so could these four as well if they come up to him. That's the virtual overall standings. If the race were to finish exactly where it is now, Damiano Cunego would move up to third spot overall, just 25 seconds down.
And he would certainly sign for that if he could sign
Absolutely.
right away.
Exactly. Montaguti's doing a good job here. Would you, Adam and Evie? Matthew Montaguti in a break has a chance of catching Andre Amador with these four here, and even possibly contesting for a victory. And having said for all of this Giro d'Italia so far that and the rest of the year, AG2R were winless. They took two yesterday. Sebastianino taking Circuit de la Reine, and Sylvain Georges taking the stage in the Tour of California. Two in one day. They might even get a third here today, Sean. That would be a turn up for the books.
Well, as we often say, when a team they get a win under their belts, so they seem to get other ones that bit more easy, and everybody's relaxed and amazing. Like AG2R, they're waiting such a long time as we can see the main bunch here, that is Schleck.
Yeah, Schleck has made it back into this main bunch. He's sitting right behind Roman Kreuziger on there. That's good riding by Frank. But clearly then I think the pace at the top of the climb by the peloton was closely controlled. First of all by Katusha and then by Astana, just making sure that everybody was safe. And I think that's worked quite well for Frank Schleck. Best young rider, also wearing 12 there. Scarponi with number 1. Turn that characteristically big gear. Schleck is in there. Basso is in there. So all the big favourites, most of the big favourites. We saw Domenico Pozzovivo was in the back of that group earlier on, so he may well he'll be there a little bit later as well towards the front. And here's what Jean Gadret thought of his chances today. It's not good to start early, but I'll have to show something. I've got 2 minutes and 30 seconds down today, so if I can take about a minute 30, I'll definitely try. Kilometers to go for our lead man, André Amador. It looks like Demarchi is now trying to eat up that gap between himself and Amador. That's a little bit more of a concerted push to see who can stay with him, because he keeps looking over his shoulder, getting up out of the saddle, feels he's got some energy left to still push on here, Sean.
Yes, and it tells me that the 4 chasers, they're not pulling well together, because still with 20 kilometers to go as they just pass through it at the moment, if it was working well together, I think everybody would be happy just to keep on plugging away at it, because 20 kilometers of a climb, it's a long way, and when you see somebody going in the attack, well then it just says that there's maybe one of the guys or possibly 2 of them just want to cling on the rear and get carried along.
Amador, we've seen him in 3 breakaways already. Frank Schleck. Just looking as if he was quite comfortable sitting in there, spinning a very low gear indeed. Well, I understand we had a bit of a technical problem with Jean Gadret, and you probably couldn't hear him. We could, but let's see what he has to say about today. Start from the top, I think.
C'est sûr qu'il ne faut pas partir de très loin, mais bon, va falloir quand même se découvrir un beau jour. Donc, pour ma part, j'ai quand même 2 minutes 30 de retard. Donc,
not so good to start early. We'll have to try something. He says, 2 minutes 30 down. I need to get about 1 minute 30. I won't hesitate to do something if I can. I hope my legs will be there. We'll know at the end of the stage. You've learnt this final climb to Cervinia. What are you thinking about? There's a lot of kilometers, but it's not actually that difficult. And there are some flatter ramps, and sometimes it'll depend on how the average speed is. If the riders go fast, then we'll all have to go fast. But I think it's the beginning of the climb. There'll be a few riders still ahead. Oh, how right he was, Sean. There are a few riders ahead. André Amador is the man out ahead at the moment, and it looks like Demarchi has managed to make the break. Oh, hello, look at this. Marzio Bruzigin and Ceruca have come across to Damiano Cunego here, and that's an interesting little group. Marzio Bruzigin, who's finished on the podium in the Giro d'Italia before, very strong rider. On his day, Sean, is the sort of rider who can really eat up the kilometres on this sort of climb.
Yes, on this sort of climb, Bruzigin is very strong, but again, is he in the good enough shape? We haven't really seen him, we haven't had the occasion to see him, or a lot of other riders in that case, in the general classification. We haven't had a real test, and Ceruca they're also pushing on. And of course, Bruzigin is going to sit here because with his teammate out in front, he's not going to ride here, and the advantage for the lone man out in front is still a good advantage, and with 18 kilometres to go, it will be interesting if he can keep working as he is, and is he going to hold up the 4 chasers we had on the road? That is the other question, because they were getting a bit aggressive and starting to attack each other, so I feel we could see one of them 4 chasers coming across and to join up with our leader on the road, Amador.
I think actually, Sean, that's probably what's happened with the team car. The director sportifs have made the decision, as the speed is definitely going up a little bit here in the peloton, with Liquigas on the front dictating pace. Bruggen has decided, or the team has decided, that Bruggen has a chance at 2 minutes and 47 seconds, and he's a very strong guy, to get up to Cunego, because Amador may well have the gap cut down, and in the end he's been doing so much riding by himself, he may miss out on the chance of a stage win, so launch another man into the volley.
Well, I think it's going to be difficult for that group of Cunego, Cheruka and Bruggen, because the big bunch of favourites is not that far off, and we can see just our last shots of the front of the bunch. Liquigas starting to push on here. We can see now at the moment it's starting to up in pace, and it's going to be difficult for the Bruggen group to pull away here, so I don't think they will get enough of an advantage to stay all the way to the finish to have any chance of pulling back time and moving up in the general classification for Bruggen.
Riders at the front then, favourites at the front. We know Ivan Basso is there, the pink jersey of Joaquim Rodriguez is in there. Next to Rodriguez on the left-hand side, riding in the Garmin kit, Garmin Barracuda kit, is Ryder Huisdahl, former pink jersey wearer there. You can see with the Cervelo mark on the back of the jersey, just bobbing and weaving a little bit, number 95 there. Roman Kreuziger just back a little bit off the front there, just sitting behind Ryder Huisdahl, keeping himself out of trouble. So a lot of the favourites up in that leading group there. And there we are, there's not much of a chance of them getting away, as you said, Sean. Ahmed Cheruka and Marcio Bruggen with Damiano Cunego, and they're going to shut down one of the danger middle, 2 of the danger middle. And Bruggen is a bit less dangerous, but Cunego has got a very small gap, 1 minute 37 seconds, and they're going to shut this one down.
Yes, well, they're not going to allow them to take any sort of a big advantage here, and we can see the pace being set by Liquigas, and it's always difficult because Cheruka is the only one who's riding at the moment, and how long will the Liquigas riders last here? And if they do slow down a bit, I think there'll be more attacks out of the bunch. There's a lot of riders here. In the general classification, I think almost everybody is up there, and that top 15 riders seems to be there. I see Cataldo is also there, so that tells like that. I think the top 15 riders, at least in the general classification, starting out this morning, they all seems to be there for the moment.
Yeah. And Bárta. It's been an interesting day so far. Everybody's just watching. No real salvos have been fired, Sean. Some of our chasing men, Olivier Kaysen, and they're not going huge amount of speed, Sean, because Kaysen's just sitting there laughing and joking a little bit with Nelson Oliveira, so it's not been, for those guys up ahead, it's still not going great guns here.
No, and I think for that group,
here as well.
That group of Kaysen, they'll probably have been pulled back by that
yes,
Cheruka,
sure.
And Kaysen seems to be quite happy, and he would be, because he's done a good job today. He's been out in front, and the day is over for him. He's just to get up this climb now, and he's just going to climb it at an easier pace and get inside the time limit, which is no problem, and finish the day. So he looked quite happy. But back in the bunch, we can see that for the moment Liquigas are setting a good pace, but certainly not pushing it on majorly, because everybody seems to be comfortable for the moment.
There's a bit of suffering going on now. Yep. Jan Bárta is giving it everything here to try and get up to Alessandro De Marchi of Androni. There's De Marchi. Chiruka's riding on by himself. Cunego knows that the peloton's going to come up to them fairly shortly, but Chiruka, well, try to get a bit of exposure, trying to get away a little bit. He's not had the greatest of Giro d'Italia, Sean, but they're so far behind the leading men at the moment. It's difficult to see any chance of him going for stage victory here.
Well, it looks impossible that he's going to catch the leader on the road, Amador, because it's still around the 7 minutes, I reckon,
yes,
for this man here, just for the front end of the bunch. It's around that 7 minute mark, so highly unlikely he's going to close down on Amador, and Amador seems to be riding quite strong at the moment, and he's working away at it here. We can see this section, it eases off a bit, it flattens out a bit, and he's strong on that section. The steeper sections, that's where he will suffer a bit, but he is a big powerful guy, and with 15k's to go, he's doing a great job for the moment, riding very strong all the time.
Liquigas again exerting control. Is it a bit of a damp squib, Sean, today?
Yes, I think it could be that, and it's often the case where you get a real difficult stage and you're expecting a lot on the final climb, and so for some reason just the big favourites, they start to tactically they just mark themselves out, and the situation as well with the breakaway quite a long ways ahead with our lone man on the road, 7-8 minutes plus, starting into the final climb. A lot of the riders here would be thinking of maybe going for a stage who are a long ways down the general classification, but very good in this sort of mountaintop finish. They would say to themselves, well, it's not going to happen today to pull the leaders back. They are going to probably hold out there, and they don't get aggressive in the earlier part of the climb, and then you have a situation where a team like Liquigas start making the pace, and they will continue for a long time, and we could get to the last 2 or 3 kilometres to see some attacks, if that, and they're not going to a lot happening if you leave it to the last 2 or 3 kilometres.
Pushing on the left hand side of your screen, pushing on. Quite sure what the tactic is from Marcio Brugge. Comes from the region around Venice. .30 seconds between Amador and De Marchi, and Jan Bárta is just there. Damiano Cunego comes back into the main group, slips in behind the line of Michele Scarponi, and Liquigas are, well, they're pushing on the speed here. It's beginning to get a bit strung out. No problems I can see in the middle of that group. Turning a big gear once again for such a small man. Domenico Pozzovivo taking the opportunity to take some liquid on board. And all the big favourites are in this group. But it's beginning to be stretched out into one single pace line here, Sean.
Yes, it seems to be stretching a little bit, and Liquigas probably opened the pace a little bit by slowly and just stretching the bunch out, and it will be interesting to see how long or how fast they will set the pace, and they still have 3 riders here, 4 riders from Liquigas, 5 riders from Liquigas still here on the front, so they still have a lot of manpower left here, and will they really put on the pressure, or will they just continue on making this pace, get through this day, get it over with, and leave it for another day? And that could be the tactic of Liquigas. Basso, maybe he just wants to get through the first day, get that over with, and then see in the days to come, and there's a lot more of opportunities, so it depending on how they're feeling, and I suppose how all the Liquigas riders are feeling and how Basso feels today, and they will just calculate then what to do in this final 15 kilometres for the peloton.
It's the Costa Rican leader on the road here, Andre Amador, riding for Movistar. He's ridden for them for the last couple of years with the Case de Pan before that. De Marchi still trying to close the gap to him, and struggling a little bit, I think, as is the man chasing De Marchi, Jan Bárta. There we are. He's really burying himself, Jan Bárta.
And he has been all day.
Isn't he just indeed?
On the first climb of the day, we see him in the beginning the Col de Joux, immediately he goes in the attack out of the breakaway, and he just seemed to the limit on all the climb, and then on the descent he was more on the limit.
Yeah, even more so, yeah. Not quite as on the limit as Andre Amador was. He leads at the moment. Andre Amador, the Costa Rican. Got a Costa Rican father, I believe. There's in the centre. Domenico Pozzovivo, 151, and that sky blue Colnago kit. Small team, Colnago, Sean. They must be very pleased with the way things are going at the moment with Pozzovivo, because their budget's only about 2 million euros, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't much at all.
Yes, and they will be that bit happier at this moment, because this morning setting out, the weather not looking good, and this descent off the first climb of Col de Joux, they would be concerned about it, and for Pozzovivo, as we talked about many times, do not like the wet conditions, the wet descents, and here he is now inside the final 15 kilometres almost, and he's in with all the big favourites. So to get this day over with, which could have been a real difficult one for them and for the Colnago team, they're faring out quite well, because Pozzovivo is not going to have any difficulties from here on. The question is now, will he try and attack in the final?
I think he might. I also think that Rojano may have another go as well. He's clearly got the leg, Sean, because he dropped Damiano Cunego, but of course he was taken back on the descent because he too is, how should we say, not the most talented of descenders, and was taken back very, very quickly indeed, having pulled out a gap over Cunego. And I have just a sneaky suspicion that he's that sort of aggressive rider. He will give it a go. 7 minutes and 16 seconds is the gap between Andre Amador and the pink jersey group. Not to worry about Amador for the overall classification. He's way down. He's not going to trouble them in the slightest. Amador at 23 minutes and 13 seconds, and there he is. He's got a brother, by the way, Ivan. Never really made it. He was another elite rider, but never really got a professional contract. I think he's retired now.
And we can see the gap back to Demarchi is it's
down a bit.
It's coming down 13 seconds, I see, just a moment ago. So Demarchi looked like he was struggling, but he seems to be climbing on a very heavy gear, a high gear, and looks like that he is in difficulty. But again, you know, it's very difficult to make the calculations. The time is telling, and it looks like 31 seconds we did here some time ago, now down to 13, and we can see there in the shot he's definitely closing down on Amador.
Liquigas are still upping the pace, I feel. And who are they going to put on the rivet first? This is the question, because it's a long climb, and if they've got strength in numbers, if they feel they've got enough overall strength to use up their domestiques one by one, who are they going to put on the rivet?
Number 155, Nicolas Mas. Last man in the bunch.
I think it'll be a fairly safe bet, that one. Amador still plugging away. Yes, younger, other brother, should we say, Ivan, only really rode up to top amateur level. This is purpose, Sean. They are definitely purposeful here, as Valerio Agnoli, a good man for the fast climb, gets onto the front. And as you said, Nicolas Mace having a bit of trouble here at the back. Let's be sensible, though. Which are the big guys they're going to put under pressure? Frank?
Well, Frank surprised me that he was so far off on the climb, and we did see there was a little bit of opening pace, and it looked like that he was in a group behind, and after getting caught out and after the descent we see he's back in the bunch here. So I think he's climbing well, because he did move up a lot on the climb itself, and that tells me the form was not too well with Frank. An impossible question. I don't know who's going to get in difficulty, because Liquigas are definitely up in the pace here. We can see the way the bunch is stretching out.
And look at the time gap coming down.
Yes, and
tumbling.
Yes, well, I'm not surprised that the time gap is coming down, because Amador has been out for a long time. The breakaway, they're all starting to struggle, because there's just, you know, it's almost a one-man battle. They're all scattered all over the mountain here, and the bunch is going to eat into their time. 6:30 with 12 to go. Is it going to be enough for the leaders out on the road, for Amador and for Demarchi? Because if somebody goes in the attack and the bunch will finish so fast here, it's it's not going to be easy for the leaders to hold off the strong men of the bunch.
Nope, not at all. This gap continues to come down with 11, no, basically 12 kilometres to go. Some real intent by Liquigas to keep the pace so high that attacks out of it are very difficult and put their rivals under real pressure. Still with 4 men. And Yoli is the sort of man who could do this for a long time. He's very, very good at it. Demarchi, strong rider, coming up to Amador. Ooh, that's a face and a half. We've got 2 very determined men here, Sean, Andre Amador and Alessandro Demarchi. 6:45, and they will also be made aware by their team cars that the peloton has begun to accelerate.
Yes, well, they will certainly be made aware, and of course, on a final climb with a finish on the top, it's always going to happen that there's a big possibility there will be some action back in the bunch, as we can see.
The look.
Yes, and I think Demarchi maybe not happy with Amador because attacking so early in the climb. They had a nice group there together, and if they had worked a bit more, it would have made it a bit more secure to get to the finish. As we can see, 6:40, that is the question now. How fast is the bunch going to go? Is Liquigas going to continue all the way in this final 10-11 kilometres? Are they capable of doing it? How strong are they? The 3-4 men from Liquigas on the front. Is there somebody else going to go in the attack? And if we have attacks pretty shortly and the pace goes up a lot, well, then that 6 minutes will come down so quickly, and our 2 leaders are going to have to pull well together to try and keep the advantage as much as possible, because we're getting to a section in the end where it does kick up a lot, and the steeper sections, I think that's where our 2 leaders will start struggling majorly.
And Yoli has done his job. Also, the best young rider starts to take up the front. The real proper climbing super domestique. Sylvester Schmidt is the last man to sit in front of Ivan Basso. It's still not hugely fast, and it's fast enough, but we haven't seen big gaps appearing at the moment. Some riders, Fletcher hanging on in there. This is Jan Bárta trying to get up to Demarchi and Amador. That look Demarchi gave, I think you're right, absolutely spot on, Sean. I think he's very unhappy with him that he attacked so early and didn't keep working and keep the breakaway going away. And even more unhappy that as soon as he got to him, he said, come on, come through and do some work.
Yes, and
sort of, I've been chasing you for the last God knows how long.
Yes, well, I think when you look at the situation...
Watch this, watch it.
Yes, it says it all.
Exactly. What you playing at? Sorry, you were saying, Sean, we just had to stop and watch that for a minute.
Yes, and it was, a real good situation that they were in the breakaway to continue on working at it for a bit longer. When you have a climb of 27 kilometres, to go in the attack so early, it's always a huge risk. And is the bunch going to really accelerate? First of all, will they start riding on the descent and then at the beginning of the climb? And if they do that, 8-9 minutes an advantage on a 27 kilometre climb, it's always a little bit risky that you can hold on, and I think that's why Demarchi was looking at Amador and saying, well, what the hell are you doing, and why did you go on the attack early?
Precisely.
If we just work together, and the strongest ones will always find themselves in the front. When you get on a climb like this with 4 or 5 in the breakaway, the 2 or 3 stronger ones will naturally ride away on the climb, and then you just keep on working, keep on sharing, and you will keep the advantage much more by doing that. And here we are now, they're starting to struggle because they've had a big battle. Amador just fighting to hold on out in front, Demarchi just fighting big time to try and get back up to him, and they're all going to pay for that effort in the final 10 kilometres.
Our 2 leaders on the road go under the 10 kilometre to go banner. Andre Amador from Movistar at the back, and Alessandro Demarchi from Androni, who's reached him, cast him the evil eye and said, why on earth did you attack so early? We could have kept going. This is one of the steepest ramps on the climb, about 12%. Jan Bárta, who has about 28 seconds or so to make up on them, maybe a little bit less now. Indeed, 25 seconds, so he's gradually coming back at them, but he's been working at it all day. If it had to be down to sheer effort today, then this man would deserve the stage victory. But he went down the descent of the Col de Joux like he'd been on a bike for about a week and a half. And he was easily overhauled by Amador, who went down like Mick Doohan. And then attacked the other side, but it's still not going super quick here at the front. You can see some of the riders who are hanging in here. We saw Stefano Pirazzi was in the front here, and a number of other riders who are just not super climbers. Cataldo, we were talking about earlier, still in this group, and so they're not being put absolutely on the rivet yet, and still a fair way out. Sean, another 2-3 kilometers, maybe even more, 3.5, possibly 4 kilometers, and they will start to give it a dig, if that's their intention.
Well, I'm sure there's somebody here in the bunch will try when it gets a little bit more steep or gradient. At the moment we can see it's flattened out, relatively flat here, and when you have a team rider in the front, they will keep the pace really high, and the opportunity to go on the attack here for the climbers is not the place to do. They will wait, and still with 9.6 kilometers to go, there's sufficient amount of time, and with the steep gradients kicking up further on, they possibly will go in the attack. It all depends on how well Liquid Gas can keep it going. If they can keep a real strong pace, and they have riders capable of doing that for another 5-6 kilometers, well, then you get very close to the finish, and difficult then for anybody to take an advantage from the big favourites. And of course the last number of kilometres as well, it levels off a year, and it's not majorly difficult. So again there, when you get into that last 4.5 kilometres, it's relatively flattens out. So again, I don't see any big gaps appearing there between the big favourites.
Andre Amador and Alessandro De Marchi have 6 minutes and 9 seconds, looking good at the moment for at least challenging for the stage win today. How far will they work together? Still some of the Sky men sitting in here, which is a good place to be. Sitting closer to the back than perhaps he'd want to is Rigoberto Urán. Just on the left of your shot there, the blue stripe down the back. See the red roundel on the back of the shorts for sponsor IG Markets, but Rigoberto Urán still there. Christian van der Velde in there for Garmin Barracuda. We know that Ryder Hijsdal is there, van der Velde there to shepherd him along. Somebody asking, Joe McTagg saying, what happened to Ruhano? He's back in the peloton. Simple, didn't go as fast as the peloton going down the hill. And Jan Bárta has given it a huge amount of effort today. Needs to practice that descending though, Sean. What do you do when you're a rider as strong as Bárta and you simply can't go down very quickly?
Well, it's always difficult when you get to this level, and you have been biking for a number of years. If you cannot get down at this point in your career, well, then it's always difficult to improve. Of course, when you start off as a underage and junior, if you're not good, you haven't been maybe coming from a country where there's a lot of descents, long descents with very technical stuff, you can understand, but you can learn the tricks of the trade, and your descending can improve a lot. So when you get to this point in, you're in a professional for a number of years as Bárta is, it's just that you're nervous, and when you're nervous, you're just always on the brakes, and when you're nervous as well, you just relax. You're very, very tense on the bike, and that is really difficult to descend in that style.
Yes, it was painful to watch, wasn't it, really? Jose Serpa, the Visconti. Visconti was another of the riders I was saying, Sean, is in this group. Serpa's done some work for Ruhano here, keeping him up towards the front of the group. They can't be going too fast still yet, because not only is Giovanni Visconti climbing well with them at the moment, a little bit at the back, but not too bad. But we saw Valerio Agnoli disappear off the front of pace setting, go back into the peloton, and now he's back on the front again, or within that front group again. So he's clearly had to come back up and put more effort in to keep it going.
Yes, I think it's definitely not going at full bore in the main peloton, and you can see the amount of riders are still in there, but again there's still sufficient amount of time, because for our leaders as we go here 8.5 kilometres, the gap is coming down 5:42. There is sufficient amount of time for the big favourites to start upping the pace and giving a test to each other to see how everybody is feeling. And on the steeper sections, as we can see, the bunch just goes to the 10 kilometres to go, so it's not over yet.
Twice before, Giro has been a stage host or finish. And the first time was in 1960 when Aldo Kazinyanka won the stage. And the last time in 1997 when Ivan Gotti, winner of the Giro d'Italia, of course, climbed his way to victory here at Cervinia. He was riding for Seiko at the time. Some riders beginning to suffer on the length. Well, there's Visconti. He was in that front group. And here we are, Sean, now 6s and 7s coming out the back. And now as the pace has been set, they've shed quite a few actually. Caruso on the front rider, Heijsdal there, looking over at Frank Schleck. Damiano Cunego in the pink and the blue of Lampre, just trying to hang in there again now. He's been on the attack already. Rodriguez in the all pink, looking comfortable. Scarponi in the pink and blue behind him. Kreuziger for Astana with Tiralongo just ahead of him. Well, Caruso setting a fabulous pace here on the front now, and this has actually shed far more than I expected at this point.
Yes, and I think we're in a section where it's kicked up a bit, and the percentage is, certainly getting stronger, and a lot of riders getting into difficulty, and we can see there with liquid gas. Schmidt is just waiting there, and when he takes it up, we all know the damage that he can do, and if he's on a good day, he can just set the pace for a long time, quite a number of kilometres, and if he can do that today, well then we will see more starting to lose contact.
Tiralongo sits ahead of Kreuziger. He's climbing so well at the moment, so strongly, Paolo Tiralongo, but he's on duty for team leader Romain Kreuziger now, and slipping inexorably off the back. De Klerk, Bart de Klerk, who also is beginning to suffer here. It's Alberto Losada of Katusha. But really at this stage of the game, Sean, unless you've got super climbing domestiques around you, it's a case of just hanging in there. You just ride your own pace.
Yes, well, there's some of the riders here which we see slipping off there, like a Visconti. I think they're maybe, as we talked about, taking a bit of time today, lose a bit of time, because Visconti is very much up at the general classification. The question is he really suffering, or does he want to take maybe 5 or 6 minutes and have a go in another day and try and get a stage victory? But a lot of riders getting a difficulty, 2s and 3s all over the road at the moment.
Our two leading men, Paolo Di Negri in the white there of Androni, and the dark blue clad rider Andre Amador of Movistar. They are both very facially expressive riders, aren't they? In 4 minutes and 42 seconds, Sean, it's looking increasingly as though the pendulum is perhaps beginning to swing the way of the peloton, with just under 7.5 kilometres to go. Still, they can still do it, but the gap is coming down.
Yes, it is. It's very much in the balance, as we can see there.
De Gent at the front.
Yes, De Gent in the front, but 7.2 kilometres. When you look at our manual at 4 kilometres, it does ease off a lot, and I think that is going to be the advantage for the two out in front. Again, if they continue on making this pace, that 4 minutes 50, it should be enough for our two leaders if they can keep on working as they have been, and that 4 kilometres will be the I think swing the balance to our two leaders on the road.
De Marchi, number 26 there, the blue arm warmers, and Andre Amador. Demarchi really suffering, although he does pull a lot of faces, Demarchi. He's a very expressive rider. And Jan Bárta is almost up with them. Oh, hats off to the man. Really, I tell you what, if these three get to the top and they get to the last kilometre together, there's going to be some old scrap.
Well, he deserves to get a stage victory, Bárta. The way he's been riding today, going out on the first climb of the day and, you know, doing all that climb of Col de Joux on his own, and then the descent very poorly, but still was out there. And, you know, what a battle he's had there. He's been hanging there at 15-20 seconds for, you know, 5 or 6 kilometres, and he just claws his way back. I think you have to give him, you know, 10 points for just, you know, digging in there and keeping working at it. And now he's got back into 2 litres, but how much has he got left in the tank?
Well, that's the big question. How much has he got left in the tank? But he deserves it just for the effort he's put in. Schmidt gets to the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. Caruso sits behind Basso now. How many other riders will we see slipping gracefully, gently off the back? Tanel Kangert is the last man in line here, and Rigoberto Urán looks a little under pressure here, Sean.
Well, he's sitting a long way off.
He's a long way off.
But again, if there's a team making a pace, you can do that. But the moment that it slows down a little bit, and you know that from experience, when the liquid gas guys, they start running out of manpower on the front, that's where you have to be careful, a little bit closer to the front of the bunch, because there is surely somebody going to attack if it does slow down a bit. But for the moment, there's no problem with that, because the pace being set by Schmidt, we can see the faces of all the riders. Everybody's suffering a little bit here at the moment, and some suffering big time. Yep,
Hajdal suffering. Kunigo looks like he's suffering. Sergio Henao is still in this group. He is suffering. One wonders whether Rigoberto Urán is just waiting to spring something. He's been riding pretty strongly. Corsica, number 31, looks comfortable. Rodriguez in the pink jersey looks comfortable at the moment. Jan Bárta comes through and does some work at the front. Well, that's a man that Alessandro Demarchi won't throw the evil eye at. He'll look at Jan Bárta and say, well, good on you for getting there. My word, he suffered today. Three visually expressive riders there. Fantastic. You could take these 3 riders, couldn't you, and transport them 80 years back, put them on big heavy bikes, put them in old clothing and mud splattered faces, and it just epitomised biking. 4 minutes and 4 seconds with 6 kilometres to go. Monteguti is taken back. De Negri here for Farnese Vini. His day is run, and the peloton will pass him, and he'll just go out the back door, sadly. And the group is, again, it's down a little bit more, Sean. There's about 22 riders here, no more.
Yes, and we could see also the AG2R, the Monteguti, just been swallowed up by the main bunch there, and we can see it's just getting small, this leading group now. Riders losing the contact, and Schmidt, of course, you know, if he's on a good day, he will do a lot more, and he will cause a lot of riders problems here to hang in this main group of big favourites.
Paolo Di Negri, end of the day for him. The man just away from the pace line, closer to us, taking a drink, is Thomas de Gent, winner of a stage in Paris-Nice this year. Solo ride over some very lumpy terrain indeed. Going down into Nice, in fact. And there he is, sitting at the front. Well, he's been going very well so far, Sean. Possibly, maybe if the pace was a little bit harder, he might suffer, but he knows how to take the pressure, that's for sure. He's not fazed by it, is he?
No, well, he's a rider that's improved the last 2-3 years, and his climbing ability has improved a lot. And again today, he's up there, and he has been the last number of days. We've seen him, and I think he finished just outside the place of the podium when Pozzovivo won.
Yes, he did, yes.
He was just beaten by Rodriguez in the sprint. Chastity was just ahead of the group there, and impressive on that day, but more impressive today because these long climbs I was expecting maybe to be a little bit of difficulty, but looks quite comfortable there on the front end of the group of big favourites.
Come on, Jan, hang in there. Get back to them again. Just drifting a little bit off the back as Amador got on the pacemaking there. Ajidal sitting in the middle, the tall rider in the blue and black and white, looks like he's suffering a little bit. Pozzovivo is right behind him. Scarponi blowing a little. Kreuziger once again looking very comfortable. We've seen it before, that he can look very comfortable, turn a big gear, and then suddenly he'll go pop. .2 kilometres left to go. It won't be long. They'll be aware of it if they've studied this short. It won't be long before they know it's beginning to flatten out a little bit.
Yes, they certainly will know, and if they haven't looked at their route book this morning, they will be, by the team directors, that they, the gap is coming down 3:30 at the moment as we come to the 5 kilometre mark. They'll be well aware of that, but they will be also told, the last 4 kilometres, they'll be probably saying, it's flat this last 4 kilometres, you can hold on, keep going, guys, and that will be the role of each director, because they all want them to get to the finish here and see who is the best man in the final kilometre or in the final number of kilometres, or if it comes down to a sprint. They've been out there all day, and they all, I suppose, deserve to get a stage victory after such a big ride and a big battle all day to hold on out in front.
Andre Amador looking for all the world like some sort of gym-going fit bouncer. It's no good exhorting Jan Bárta to do any more work. He can't. Amador, you are a cheeky one. Clearly. The Marquis looking like a sort of tall, slightly, it looks more like an athlete, a track and field athlete. Tall, lithe of limb. Jan Bárta in the middle there looking like he's just come out of a punch-up. I wouldn't know who my money's on those. I think Bárta's probably got nothing left in the tank, Sean, and Amador to me looks like the dangerous one, but De Marquis will be spitting blood if he gets it in the sprint, that's for sure. These are our 3 leading men. They went out in a breakaway. It took 70 kilometres for the breakaway to establish itself because they were going hell for leather first thing this morning. 50 kilometres an hour plus in the first 70k. Unbelievable, really. Macho Monteguti of AG2R Le Mondial. De Marchi, who's still in this group here. Paolo Di Negri, we've just seen him swallowed up by the peloton. Olivier Kaysen. More miles in the bank for the Fuga Pinarello prize, the breakaway breakaway distance prize. Andre Amador in this group that we're watching from the helicopter shots. Nicolas Meis was back in the main peloton and now been dropped, I'm sure. Nelson Oliveira was reeled back in along with Olivier Kaysen. And Jan Bárta. Jan Bárta has fought all day here, and De Marchi has decided, well, I'm going to... Oh, no, sorry, it's Rohano. I thought it was De Marchi over the top for a minute. Jose Rohano, well, we did mention, Sean, he might have another go. Not getting very far at the moment. Difficult man to attack, Sylvester Schmidt. .7 kilometres for our leading 3 men. As the peloton and the main favourites whittle down to what, about 25 riders enter the mists at the top of Treviño here. Oh, Jose, not to be for you today, I'm afraid. Get yourself back in the peloton. Rabobank's orange-clad Tom Schlachter still in this group as well. He's climbing well, isn't he, Sean? Tom Schlachter.
Yes, he's been impressive in the last week, certainly, and looking to getting in better shape as we see Sandy Cassar, who is in the general classification. He's very much up there in third position, fighting here at the moment to cling on the rear end of the peloton.
Slowly, doesn't matter how much you fight. Tanel Kangat, the Estonian, is going to succumb to the relentless pressure now being put on by Sylvester Schmidt, who's up to gear. Kreuziger looks over his shoulder to see who is able to follow as he hangs in behind Paolo Terlongo. No real problems yet for the main favourites. Should be back with them, really, because that's where the action's happening. De Marchi looks over his shoulder at the at the traitorous Amador. And that's it for Sylvester Schmidt. It's down to the big favourites, and Ivan Basso has to take the lead, Sean. He hasn't really got any choice, has he? Because his team has worked for him all the way, and now he's got to pile on the pressure. He has to. It's down to him now. He's going to take a kilometre or so to see who he can shed out the back here.
Yes, and he's coming to the section where it's going to ease off the final 4 kilometres, and I think he'll be aware of that. He has to continue on making the pace when his last man peels off the front, because if he just slows down, well, then there's going to be a lot of riders will go on the attack here. And to get through this section where it's a little bit steeper, if you can get to that 4.5 kilometres where it eases off, then it's more difficult for anybody to attack, and I think that's the tactic of Basso. As we see Pozzovivo there almost becoming a cropper with a spectator.
Absolutely, yeah, the Tifosi. Would you think there's a few excited Tifosi about? Yes, Domenico Pozzovivo almost being dragged off the bike there. I'm surprised that Dario Cataldo's still in there. Here goes Di Marchi. He's not going to wait. Here comes Amador after him. Jan Bárta straight onto the wheel of Amador. Go on, Jan. You've got to hand it to him. It's a little bit flatter, and that'll play into his hands. He's a very strong time trialist, Jan Bárta, if he's got anything in the legs.
Well, I think they really have to push on here, because we have 3.5 kilometres, and the gap is coming down majorly at the moment. Like, it's dropped off a lot there, and it's going to be real tight.
Where's team leader? Where's team leader? Says Paolo Tirolongo. Where is Roman? Just sitting back there. There's a bit of playing going on here. Paolo Tirolongo is jerking the chain of some of the major favourites here.
One favourite losing ground.
Two. Cunego and Rohano. This is not Domenico Pozzovivo. I think it's Batalin, isn't it? Going off. Brambilla, I think. And Brambilla makes the move. And I think this is Nieve, or it could be Izagiri. But Basso had to take up the, it's Nieve, yes, taking up the challenge. And interestingly, there's a lot of people think that Basso can be put under pressure here, Sean. Heijsdal just riding off the front of that little group up to Paolo Tirolongo, and seems to be continuing the pace. He's not staying with Nieve here, but look, he's definitely putting people under pressure here. That's great riding. Straight up the road goes rider Heijsdal, and this sort of terrain suits him very well. Everybody will be very worried about this. Moreno now taking over pace setting at the front of the peloton. They must bring rider Heijsdal back.
Yes, and a little bit of tactics there. We could see riders looking at each other, and Heijsdal decides to have a go here. But again, we can see with Katusha, they have still men there to look after race leader Joaquim Rodriguez, and they're setting the pace. Moreno on the front at the moment, and you know, he is a real good climber. He'll just set a strong pace here and not allow rider Heijsdal to take any major advantage.
Heijsdal's really going to motor now if he possibly can. He's got Mikel Nieve with him. Nieve will have to settle for bringing himself up in the general classification if he's got this man with him. And Heijsdal looks to be putting a wheel length between himself and Nieve. 17 seconds only separate Heijsdal, who's already worn the pink jersey in this Giro d'Italia, and these men behind him, Joaquim Rodriguez. Nieve can't hack the pace there, Sean. 3:35, he's back. And Heijsdal is looking very good indeed. It's really on the limit though, because you don't often see he's reaching for the hoods with one arm and still gripping the top of the bars with the other. Most uncomfortable position to climb in, and he's just absolutely on the limit. Didn't feel as though he could go any deeper at that point. Tirolongo climbing so well and looking across to see where Heijsdal is. He's not happy, but he knows he has to wait for Roman Kreuziger, has to look after him. But Tirolongo, second in line here behind Moreno, not doing any of the pace-setting work at the moment. Joaquim Rodriguez, the pink jersey, is off after rider Heijsdal. Then Pozzovivo goes, now Scarponi. reacting quickly as Tiralonga, but not too fast. He doesn't want to outstrip his team leader. Rodriguez is going to ride up past Nieve and straight to Ryder Hijadal. That's showing the big stick to the Canadian, saying, I think I can match it.
Yes, and showing the big stick to the other big favourites. Kluzinger, we can see, not responding there. Pozzovivo trying to go. Scarponi also looking, but happy to just stay in the wheel of Pozzovivo for the moment. And I think they're all suffering a bit here. Nobody reacting when Joaquim Rodriguez immediately, nobody able to just jump onto the wheel, and Rodriguez put in a good effort here, a good acceleration.
Big gap for Ryder Hijadal. And now Scarponi, as always, turning over a big gear. Thinks, nope, it's time for this. There are people who can be put under pressure here. Kreuziger, I think he feels possibly is not quite as on good as form as perhaps he's showing normally. He's got that sort of face that doesn't express an awful lot. Ryder Hijadal, fantastic effort. I mean, it's a huge effort. He's weaving all over the road, trying to get every watt out of his body. Rodriguez is brought back by Scarponi. Basso on the wheel. Magnificent climbing by the two Skymen. We did point out that perhaps Rigoberto Urán was just waiting to spring something, and he's ridden up, as all the others have been shed by the pace. He's ridden up into that elite group, as has young Sergio Henao. This is a magnificent effort for Hijadal, and these three are going to get caught if they're not careful. Hijadal surely will attack onto the back of those men, Sean, or will he drive? Will he keep driving at the front of it?
Well, I think he will keep driving. If he can, which it looks like he's going to get back to them, because I think the three leaders are totally at the end of their powers. We see Pozzovivo putting in an attack here. Hijadal is, really giving it everything here, and it looks like that he could very well swallow up our three leaders on the road.
Kreuziger has gone. Kreuziger's not there, Sean. Romain Kreuziger has been dropped from that group, and as we just were talking about it, I had a suspicion that Tiralonga was so much stronger than Kreuziger. But Kreuziger wasn't on his wheel. He kept looking back to see where he was as De Marchi goes with 1,200 metres. And Jan Bárta is towing. And oh, look at Jan Bárta. Under the kilometre to go banner. I'm sorry, I like De Marchi as a rider. Amador has entertained us on the descent today, but Jan Bárta, for me, should have this one, really, just for work rate and effort. He's worked so hard to get back up to them. Now sits in the wheel of Andre Amador, and I cannot see him winning the sprint, Sean. He's a magnificent time trialist, and Ryder Hijadal is not too far behind them. Maybe he'll catch them, maybe he won't. I don't think he's going to get there now.
No, I think with the run in here, it's levelled off a lot. It's not the gradient is not steep at all, so I think our three leaders will hold on.
Looks like, is that Kreuziger's got back here? Or is that Tiralonga?
Tiralonga.
I think it's Tiralonga. Amador and De Marchi and Jan Bárta are going to slug it out at the finish. Oh, you could pay for Amador's coming around with what, 200 metres to go? De Marchi sitting in there. He's got to spring a surprise on Amador if he possibly can. Jan Bárta still has it. One more effort from Jan Bárta. Go on, Jan! 150 metres to go. He's got to the front, but I don't think he's going to stay there. He's going to give it everything. Amador's going to come around the outside. It's over for Jan Bárta. Amador takes the win. Bárta takes second. And De Marchi takes third. Andre Amador takes it. I wouldn't be surprised if they had to carry Jan Bárta off the mountain now. Here comes Ryder Hijadal. The question is, what will be the gap between them? Hijadal driving for the line. Brilliant ride. 20 seconds behind the leaders. He only had 17 seconds to make up. So look, wait, that clock counts to 37. And driving for the line, Tiralonga. The pink jersey is going to change hands. Tiralonga must surely become the leader here of the Astana effort. Pink jersey's gone. Hijadal gets it. 46 seconds they come over, and what a day, Sean, in the end. We thought it was all going to be controlled and maybe a damp script. Brilliant ride by Sergio Henio again. Terrific ride. And by Rigoberto Urán, but the pink jersey goes from the shoulders of Joaquim Rodriguez, and rider Hijsedal, what a ride, fabulous ride. Cassar in here as well. Great ride by Sandy. All in bits here. Schlachter comes home. Kunigo is in this group. Sergei Lagutin, the Uzbek national champion, second in line here. Schlachter's going to come out from around the outside and see if he can get the next placing, can he? Yes, he can. Wow, what a finish, Sean. That was super exciting. Yes. Far more exciting than I expect.
What a final, and our three leaders, our three breakaway men, what a fight they put up for the stage victory. And I think Hijsedal, you know, he put in a magnificent effort in the final kilometres there to just hold off the group, and a lot of the big favourites throwing in attacks trying to take him back, and a magnificent job, and moves back into race leadership.
Absolutely, really magnificent job. Schmidt and Caruso coming through. What about Roman Kreuziger though, Sean? He went. I had a suspicion, and I've voiced it, that he didn't look as he wasn't as good as perhaps he looked. He has that sort of stony face, and it proved to be the case. He got blown out of that group, and it was Tirolongo who was the best rider for Astana.
Yes, in a little bit of difficulty when it was really, you know, going very fast, and a big attack, and just found it difficult to follow the pace, and that tells that maybe not as comfortable. And again, what is the reason? Is the weather conditions? We'll have to wait and see for another day, but he saved, I think he saved his position, he saved his place really today, did not blow big time.
Larsson from Vacansoleil driving for the line. Stefano Pirazzi comes over the line for Colnago. They all look absolutely beat. They're giving it. Is that Lars back? Magnificent.
Or De Grief.
Is it De Grief? I thought it was back for a minute. Anyway, magnificent. They're all magnificent. What a fight for the three in the end. Got to say, it was a titanic scrap. You had to sort of favour Amador, really. He just looked a little bit more comfortable there, Sean. Demarchi was not going to give it to him on a plate for sure. Here we are. Look at Jan Bárta. I thought he was dead at 500 metres. And he went, but he didn't have an awful lot of choice, did he? And Demarchi was the one who failed in the end. But Amador still having enough strength, brute strength, to come past Jan Bárta. I don't think Jan Bárta had much of a choice. He just gave it everything that he possibly could.
Well, I think he gave it more than everything. I think on the final climb we could see him there trying to make it back to Demarchi and Amador, and it took him 5 or 6 kilometres. He was only 150, 200 metres, but still 20 seconds, 25 seconds on the climb, and scrubbed his way back to them. And then we see in the end, when Demarchi went, it was Bárta who closed it down. He looked to be already cooked there, but still had to go on the sprint and, you know, put up a big battle. But it was Amador who had just that little bit more of energy left. Yep.
Well, I hope we show that shot of Jan Bárta again as he came over the line. Bárta gets second anyway. Demarchi, then Hijsedal. 26 seconds back to Paolo Tirolongo, Rigoberto Urán, Joaquim Rodriguez, and Thomas de Gent still hanging in there as well. Well, who'd have believed it? What a day. Scarponi there, Gadre there, Schleck in there as well. In all the excitement, I didn't even see him come over. Pozzovivo, Ivan Basso, great ride by young Sergio Henio. Again, Benyatin Chausti looked to be under the cosh today. But two in the top 15 for Movistar. Not the most pleasant of days in the saddle, Sean, in terms of weather, and it sorted out a few men from boys today.
Well, I think it did, as we can see, the standings overall. Hijsedal moves into leadership. Joaquim Rodriguez at 9, and Paulo Tirolongo is still up there very much in the general classification at 41. Sandy Cassar hanging in well. It looked like that he was in difficulty a couple of kilometres from the finish, but still very much up in the general classification.
Absolutely. Magnificent scrap. for the win today. And Andre Amador, the Costa Rican rider, said in 3 breakaways, given lots of effort to try and get there, takes the win. But rider Huisdahl really attacked and took over the pink jersey once again. Tiralongo, best of Astana. Kreuziger out the back door. Amador takes the win. But Huisdahl takes the jersey. Is that a good or a bad thing, Sean, with such a difficult week to come?
Well, I think he's just going to enjoy his days in the pink jersey, and they're going to see how long they can hold on for. And it's always great for a team and for the rider to get into race leadership.
Well, tomorrow's stage, 169 kilometres to Lecco Piana dei Resinelli. Stage 15 on Sunday, 3:15 CET, and that's 2:15 in the UK if you're watching, and another hard day in the saddle for the boys, one has to say. What a profile it is tomorrow. Up and down and up and down and up and down again. That second category climb at the end. But after today's efforts, there'll be some spent bodies out there. They'll be pleased to get on the couch, get the massage, get some food inside them, and go to sleep. Amador takes the victory. And Jan Bárta outgunned in the end. But you've got to give him credit. And you've got to give Netta credit, Sean, as well, because twice now they've just been pipped to a victory on an uphill finish.
Yes, well, I think they're putting in a great performance in this Giro and in the breaks every day, and also on both occasions getting very close to a stage victory. And today, what a performance Bárta put up, because he's been out there for so long. And I suppose you'd look back and say, well, if he didn't go in the attack in the earlier part, he would have that little bit more left in the end. But again, on the descent, we see him very, very difficult on the descent. So maybe that was his tactic. He needed to get ahead to make the descent out in front. Otherwise, he was afraid of being getting left behind.
What about Paolo Tiralongo? Paolo Tiralongo, look at this. He's being chased by Uran, and Tiralongo must now be looking. There must be some discussions going on at the table tonight, Sean, between Romain Kreuziger, Paolo Tiralongo, and all the staff at Astana thinking, what do we do now?
Well, I think they're still in there very much with 2 riders in a great position, and that's always a good place to be, because you can play the 2 cards. Maybe cruising got just the conditions today, 4 days in the mountains, the change of temperatures, the wet conditions, maybe that affects them a bit. But again, I think they will just continue. But Tiralongo will be saying, well, I can do a performance, I can do a result in this Giro, I can maybe get on the podium. So we could see problems there as the race go on, because he might start riding his own race.
He might well do. Andre Amador takes the victory. Now, Sean, we did postulate early in the day how many jerseys would change hands. I think all of them have, because I'm hearing Mark Cavendish may not finish today, in which case they all would have changed hands.
Well, we were looking at the classifications of the jerseys, and we were saying very possible 3 classifications would change: overall, mountains, and the other one was?
Well, with all of them going to be young rider.
The young riders classification, yes.
So,
but the one was Cavendish's one was the one which we would see difficulty. But again, depending on with time delays and if Cavendish's group made it inside the time limit.
Yeah, of course. Now we're not saying that is actually the case. We haven't seen the results or heard much about Mark Cavendish. If he's either outside a time limit today or has, for one reason or other, had to retire from the Giro d'Italia, that may not be the case. It's just speculation. Then, of course, that jersey would automatically go over to the next man in the competition, and it would be Rodriguez who would take over that jersey. Changing hands though, the pink jersey definitely, the mountains classification definitely. Best young rider, I would guess Rigoberto Urán has that now. So if it is the case that Mark Cavendish is there, all 4 jerseys. There we are. Now, I know some of the professional pundits out there were saying, oh, I don't know, I don't like a bet like that. Should have got some odds for that this morning. If somebody had given us 400 or 500 to 1, I'd have taken that bet today. I don't know about you. Get on the ball, guys. We're going to ask you stuff like that. I might get my checkbook out as well. Maybe don't take check. Ryder Hijndal takes over the pink jersey again. That was a terrific attack, Sean, and he didn't half go, didn't he, when he put the hammer down?
He certainly did, and you know, he was giving it everything, and but he still had the power to hold off the group there, which was going at a very fast pace. And then there was a number of attacks from, you know, real good climbers there to try and close him down, but still, you know, resisted them all and held off a sufficient amount to go into pink jersey again.
Absolutely. Well, he's certainly laid down a marker. He's finished 4th in the Tour de France, so he's not a man to be trifled with, is Ryder Hijndal. And we'll just have to see how he recovers again tomorrow. I think he's had one wobbly day, and that's about it, really, so far. But it's a long week. Everybody says, who's going to win today? What's your prognosis for today? Who's your pick for today? It's so difficult to tell. I've learned for a long period of time working with Sean and watching bike racing and commentating on it that it's really difficult to predict anything before about the last 25 kilometres of any stage on any day.
Well, I think the day that Hijndal lost the jersey, Rodriguez, of course, won the stage, and with bonifications he took that race leadership from Ryder Hijndal. But again, it was a very short finish, and I don't think Ryder Hijndal likes them.
He doesn't.
Short 2-3 kilometres where so explosive. Today's long climb of 27 kilometres, that's where he's really strong at, and he certainly proved today that he's a 1 for the general classification in this race.
But look at the riders all within 2 minutes and 30 seconds. De Ghent's in there, that's amazing. Schleck, Sergio Padilla right up there. A man we've not even mentioned. Had a great day today with Inchausti, finished together. And they will, Rigoberto Urán being presented, I think, with the best young riders jersey. Here he is. So that's 2 jerseys changed hands. Terrific day for Sky. Here, Sean, this man is a serious contender, I think. He can time trial. He seems to recover very well, and we don't often see him have a bad day. Rigoberto Urán then takes on the best young riders jersey off the shoulders of Caruso of Liquigas. That's 2 jerseys down. And his teammate Sergio Henao finishing well up as well. Well, it's all to do again tomorrow, and they'll be thankful of the rest day after that as well, Sean, because tomorrow's stage very difficult indeed. It finishes on a 2nd category climb, but it's got a 1st category climb halfway through, the Valico di Valcheva, and then 2 2nd category climbs at the end. The San Pietro is the climb at about 25 kilometres out. Look at that, Sky 1 and 2 in the best young riders competition, and they finish at Piani di Resinelli at the end. 2 2nd category climbs. It's going to be a tough day again tomorrow.
Yes, the first 60 kilometres relatively flat, and then that final real difficult and another real leg breaker.
Yeah, thanks, Carlton. Here with Ryder Hijndal back in pink again. What a ride. I mean, to be honest, I was astounded when you went. Were you too? Was it something you were expecting, or was it a surprise to you as well?
No, I felt good. I felt easy when those guys were setting the tempo until Ivan was by himself. I felt good. Guys started to accelerate a little bit. I knew that it eased off after 3K, so legs are good. I figure I'd just give it a go, test myself a little bit, but I guess I tested the race too.
I don't know how much you know of what happened, but Rodriguez did try to go after you eventually and just got halfway and just didn't have it.
Okay, well, that's good then. I mean, yeah. Again, I just felt good. I wasn't really thinking about anything, just putting in an effort and seeing what the other guys were up to. And yeah, what can I say? It worked out well, and I'm back in the jersey, so that's good.
Just quickly, what do you make to Liquigas tactics? They've spent a lot of time on the front today and on other days. Not in ping, they haven't really gained anything today. Is it got any views on that?
Oh, it's been fine by me. I mean,
I think it's been fine by Katusha as well.
I think I think Ivan's serious about winning the race, and he knows he's capable and his team's strong enough. So I mean, they're doing what they think they need to do, and that's fine.
Okay, thanks very much for your time, Ryder.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Nice interview by Daniel Lloyd there, and everybody voicing the same things we are. What is happening with Liquigas? They have controlled it all the way so far, or tried to control it all the way, but they've got very little out of it. Will they crack under the pressure? Andre Amador takes the win today ahead of Jan Bárta and Alessandro Di Marchi. And what a scrap we had. Brilliant finish today. Three very charismatic riders and a brilliant finish. And Ryder Hajdar back in pink. From Sean and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.